Heidi ho. So let's see. So in December 2020, that's when I signed up for Xbox Game Pass, and at the time I was thinking like, oh, is this something I'm gonna want to really invest in or like partake in? I had my doubts, because I always figured, okay, well the games they have there, the ones you want, you probably already own, uh, and you got to pay every month. Perhaps you'd rather own games rather than just have them there and then they go away. Since then, no, I've completely changed my tune. Game Pass is an excellent deal. So I already did a video last year where I listed all the games I played from just the first December to the second December, or a year's worth of Game Pass, and yeah, it's highly positive review. Because to be fair, I was leading up to wanting to start using Game Pass. So, there were some games I'm like, okay, there's games available that I'm going to want to play. So once I started, I knew, bam, there were some hits that I wanted to play right away. Crackdown 3 was one of them, Sea of Thieves, The Outer Worlds. So those were just lined up. I knew that I was going to jump into something fun. So now I just want to do a review starting with from end of 1 year. So this is the second year of Game Pass that I've had, and yeah, this is just mostly an overview of the games I've played. If nothing else, you can have this in the background, hear me talk, um, and then maybe some of it gets absorbed. So, or maybe I say a certain game, and you'd be like, "Oh, Kerry, I didn't know you played that," and then we could talk about it some more. I give you a brief snippet review, and over the course of this thing, you can see like, okay, so here is a sample of the kind of stuff that a gamer was able to access over the course of a year using Game Pass. Well, and by the end of it, you'll see for yourself how much of a deal it is. I also talk about, or intend to talk about, some of the games that I had also spent, which was a little surprising how much I ended up spending this year on video games. Ooh, that's the teaser. That's the sting. We'll get to that. And another concern that is prevalent in switching over to the Game Pass subscription is like, okay, well, the games aren't on there permanently and not necessarily guaranteed, depending on what studio they are on or from. Like all first party Microsoft games, you should expect will be on Game Pass for quite some time. And yes, there are instances where games do leave, and it is kind of a bummer when okay, you've started it now it's off the service. But yeah, I'll give a little summary of the games that were removed, and you see how big of a deal that actually was, at least in my circumstance. So starting in December of 2021, the first new. So yeah, these are all just new. I'm not gonna do any repeats of any games I started playing last year. In fact, it is pretty uncommon for me to, because yeah, I find video games have momentum. Where, and yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate, where it's just like, what, if you start a game and you get so far, and then something else gets your attention, another game, another thing, and sometimes jumping back into a game is incredibly difficult. So if you stop playing a game, it's pretty unlikely you're going to jump back into it. So when making the list I prepared here, it's pretty much went with, well, when did I start playing the game? So I might be jumping over some games that I did get back into, that I started last year, but it seems unlikely that there's going to be too many of those. So this one more year of Game Pass. So first game I downloaded was Wreck Fest, which I don't know if they, because I was just about to say it like breakfast, and it's like, I guess Wreck Fest, right? Like, surely they were thinking of breakfast. Whoever named this might have been hungry, but like, it's got nothing to do with breakfast, or I don't know. Anywho, I think I've put more time just now. I could stammer and go on and on more about the name of this game than I actually spent playing it. Looks like I clocked 9 minutes in this game. Um, I don't recall if I didn't enjoy the 9 minutes. I think I just, it was, let's see, December 27th, so just holiday time. I want to play something. I looked through the list and it's just like, okay, this looks like you can drive a lawnmower, you can get into some demolition derby. I don't know. I just didn't get back into it. Then there we go. Then the new year starts. Ooh, spooky red. Then I started playing Firewatch. Oh yeah. So actually, well, a few of these. So another benefit. So Game Pass, right? Like as you're saying, as I'm suggesting, yes. If you look at the list of games, there's gonna be some that's just like, oh yay, um, I was gonna buy that, now I don't have to. Or if I subscribe to Game Pass, I don't have to. And as long as the game's there, I'll play it. But another very good benefit about Game Pass is, and I didn't realize this until I subscribed. And last year I started playing Slay the Spire, and bam, that's when I realized there's this whole genre of games which I never would have touched. But if it's free, then sure, try it. So yeah, Firewatch. So yeah, a lot it fits under the category of games I probably wouldn't have purchased myself unless it was like really marked down on sale. But yeah, it was a pretty. But you know what? I don't regret spending the time playing it. It was a nice story where it really felt like you were in control of what's going on. You are a, and like I'm saying, this was almost a year ago now. I played this or started it. In fact, it was January 1st. So I might be getting some of the details incorrect, but I think you're, well, what person who leaves their lifestyle and goes, I believe, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I would have guessed Oregon, um, to become a park ranger. Or you oversee, like in the image you see, there's this tower here, and you just kind of get a job where you live in one of these towers, and it's your job to just monitor the park for danger, or if anyone needs any assistance or help, and look out for fires. And for the most part, it should be a solitary experience, but you do have a radio the whole time, and you're talking with someone who has another ranger who has another tower somewhere else who keeps you company. And yeah, there was a lot of decisions to be made. Between the dialogue with this other ranger, there's some situations you come across where it's just like, oh, where it actually feels like, oh, if I go left or if I go right, it may make some impact. Or how you come across certain dangers in the wilderness or situations which are, shady and concerning. So yeah, without being scary, I'd say it was suspenseful at times, exciting, and actually felt like you're living in this moment of being a park ranger in the woods. And yeah, this game was removed in December, so at least I had access to it for a whole year. But actually, I wrote here I completed it in 4 hours, which, to be fair, yeah, a lot. When I look at games, yes, I do consider, because of this issue of momentum, because I kind of want to be I want to be a completionist, and I don't want to start any games that says, oh, it will take 100+ hours to complete. So I probably knew going into it, oh, this is something I definitely will be able to complete, and I did. And it actually looks like for the first half of the year, there's several of these. The next game was Monster Sanctuary, um, which I recall looking at it and thinking about how to describe it to people. And essentially, or what I landed on was, if I were to give an elevator pitch, it's it's a Metroidvania, where you're it's also Pokemon. Um, in fact, I'll probably leave out the Metroidvania part, but yeah, that's a genre of game I don't care for. But I'm starting to warm up to it because I think last year, yeah, it's not on this list. I played the Star Wars. See, I have it last year right here. One where you are Jedi Fallen Order. That's right. And yeah, like explore area in that game. You explore areas, get powers, and from getting these powers, you're able to explore other areas or go back and re-explore areas. Monster Sanctuary is a lot like that as well, where okay, you start off and then go, "What's your name? Are you a boy or a girl? What's the name of my grandson?" No, they don't ask that, but yeah, you and more importantly, who is your starter monster? Do you want the fire lion, the cold wolf, the air bird, or the grass frog? I guess I chose fire lion and didn't look back. And yeah, so you explore this area, and you can come up, and as you walk along, you see other monsters, and if you touch them, you get into a battle, and you have up to a team of 6 monsters that don't fit in your or I don't know whether the joke to say they do fit in your pocket or they don't. There's 6 of them, and you choose 3 to battle with, and then it is a 3-on-3 battle. Um, and it's actually a pretty neat system where wait, how did that? Yeah. So it's your team of 3 goes, and the other team of 3 goes, but you also pick when you're selecting the attacks which monsters go first. You determine a sequence, which does matter because a lot of the attacks, what they do is instead of just saying like, "Oh, this is just scratch," let's say, it'll be like scratch fury. So a given monster might attack, and next to the attack and damage, will be like how many times it hits. So the point is you're trying to rack up a combo. So if you if the first monster hits 5 times, the next monster hits 6 times, and like that combo is essentially a multiplier, so it increases damage over time. So you might want your strongest attack to go third when the combo is the highest. So a lot of strategy there, and of course, you're also dealing with all your attacks have a certain element or they're physical, and your enemies have elemental weaknesses and strengths. So yeah, if you like Pokemon, uh, if you like managing parties of monsters, which you level up and you can swap off pretty constantly, and you want to enable to and create a party where you can try to match or defeat all the other element combinations which might pop up. Yeah, I got through this. I played 60 hours. Solid experience. Loved it the whole time. And then later in the end, so I played, let's see, in January. And then at some point in July, I noticed that the cover art changed. And it turned out they had an expansion, and it was a free title update too. Um, so it was like, yay, more free content for this game I enjoyed. However, yes, it was very well. I hadn't played for months. I don't exactly remember all the synergies which existed or why I picked these monsters, then had these abilities and these skill trees. So unfortunately, the title update, a lot of it was well, I mean, half of it was like here's new area to explore, and the story expanded a bit, and it looked like it was kind of leading towards a bridge between this game and what there could be a sequel in the future, which sounds exciting. I'd like to start over again. That'd be delightful. And then half the expansion was expanding the story, and a lot more monsters are being introduced. And half of it was, and here's a bunch of challenges, where yeah, like take the time with the 100+ monsters. Well, I'm sure maybe 30 of them might be more than enough to beat all these challenges, but you really had to min max these your teams. And I just unfortunately forgot everything. So I didn't finish it, but still aced it when it first came out, and then hooray, more free content. So that was a game I certainly recommend. Unpacking. This was, it was out there. It was revealed. It was the talk of the town. It was a game where it's just like, hey man, total zen, total ASMR, total chill game where essentially it tells the story of a person. I think I'm maybe over exaggerating, but yeah, you're a person who get your first. You're maybe a kid who um, moved houses and you're unpacking into your bedroom, and that's one level. Then the next level is like, oh, and then you moved out. I might be getting the specifics of these examples wrong, but like, oh, you're in a college dorm and it's your first time, and you're putting up, unpacking, and maybe the clothes look, more mature and more, and it just shows, when I say story, it just shows like a person growing and all the types of things and different things they're unpacking. And if you look closely there, you'll notice like, oh, and the things that this one person was very sentimental towards, clearly, because like I think this pink pig here stays with you the entire game or always shows up. So it's just like some things you keep with you, um, and yeah, but a lot of it too is just like, well, then you unpack in the kitchen and it's bowls, like, yeah. Nothing too sentimental there. um, and later on there is a game that I can recommend where it is a game that I am enjoying, even though all it really is just a game you can beat because it's just doing. And that's what unpacking is there's boxes, you open them up, you take things out one at a time, and you find a place in a room to put it down. And I was actually a little surprised that but thankful that when you when you were done emptying all the boxes, like there was a correct answer. There were correct answers and incorrect answers. Where it's just like, okay, obviously, all my clothes should be in these drawers. Hang up shirts, fold pants, put them in the closet. Or I'm sure these things could be mixed around, but like you couldn't put the toilet brush in the bedroom. That wouldn't make any sense. So by the time you were done, it would be like, okay, everything's unpacked, but you're not done yet, and like things would be highlighted red as if to say, nope, you've unpacked me in the wrong spot. So there was still a little bit of challenge if you did want to get invested. Otherwise, it really is just something for people who want to take their mind off, escape, and maybe feel a little accomplished unpacking. I don't know. But yeah, I myself just couldn't recommend it because it really just, thinking about it now, it feels like maybe I should have, or would have felt like maybe I could tidy up around here rather than play unpacking. Paparazzi, similar deal. Um, where yeah, it's just like you can't lose in this, but there is challenges to an extent, and then if you do things, you unlock further levels. But what you're doing in this game is taking pictures of dogs. You are like this sentient camera thing, and you just go around and living in this world which is populated with dogs, and they're just being dogs, chilling at the beach, barking at each other. You can throw a stick, they'll chase after it, they'll appreciate, they like pats. You can change their clothes, or like you can give them a hat. Game of the year, you can give a dog a hat. Oh, I never realized. Yeah, like that's you in the logo, that camera there. Um, yeah, so between this and unpacking, it's just like games to have if you like having a game at the ready, so you can get an achievement every day. Wink. I'm up to 700 days consecutively myself. Um, this so yeah, not a lot to this game either. I'm surprised I got it within the same time frame as unpacking. I don't know if that was just the attitude I was in, where I just wanted to chill. Um, I mean, they just both look so charming. Um, Art escape, the artful escape, I should say. Um, I was surprised. I don't know. It's so weird. You watch trailer for this game, and towards it, it gets all these accolades all around it from like different publications. And one of them says like, "Oh, the best game of the year." And I think I don't know whoever said that is like just. I think this is the only game they would have played. Like, it's hardly a game. It's well, it's an artful escape, I suppose, where it's the plot is you're a musician in a small town, and I want to guess the Pacific Northwest again. Um, who you are essentially the nephew of a deceased rock star, and everyone assumes, okay, you've got musical talents, you're going to be the next Uncle John Lennon. Um, but you've got different ideas, so you make an artful escape. But it's a lot of holding the joystick to the right as your character moves that way, because that's where the story is, to the right. Sometimes it's to the left. And occasionally you do encounter these musical sequences where um, they could have made it a game, they could have made it a challenge, but like Simon is more challenging. It's really just like no, no, no. It's pretty much like it's as musically challenging as Ocarina of Time, and not anything else going on. Um, Another game. Let's see. Why did I put a red X here? I think. Oh yeah, it was removed. Or sorry, it's no longer on Game Pass. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I guess. Oh yeah. So of the 6 games I've mentioned so far, this is the first. Um, Not necessarily the one that was taken off Game Pass the earliest, but the first among the games that I did play, which have been taken off. The previous 5 still available on Game Pass. Um, okay, finally, the next game is one that I was just like, yes. Well, since Monster Sanctuary is very good, but the next one's finally like, oh, this is a game that was worthwhile. Nobody saves the world. Um, Once again, you don't know. You look at it and you just think like, okay, you're a nobody. Are they being funny? Is it? First of all, looking at that art for a long time, it does. Ugh, I do not like holes, and I'm only now noticing that no one's got eyes. Oh god, I don't like that. Somehow it didn't bother me throughout the entire game. Eyes also bother me though. That's a weird dynamic. One thing that people Nobody Saves the World. This one you start off as it's a trope. You wake up and you don't know who you are, and in this particular land, people are like, "Oh no, there's a great calamity happening over there." Wait, does it start like Breath of the Wild? No, not really. Except, yeah, again, Breath of the Wild, they're like, okay, there's a great calamity over there, and we're waking you up from your 100-year nap to go deal with it. In this one, it starts off, you wake up, you don't know who you are, no one knows who you are. Hey, there's a calamity over there, and our wizard's missing. So can you go find the wizard? Or I think you land on his house and you find this magic wand, and the wand allows you to shapeshift. And like first you start off, you could be a rat, and what the rat does, like he's got teeth attacks, he can bite things and poison them, but isn't very strong, isn't very fast. I don't remember the next thing you come across, but let's say the next thing you come across is you can transform into a horse, where the horse, has abilities that you kick people and you can run really fast, and as you level up the horse you gain the ability to like stampede and stuff, and how you level up is you gotta do class specific quests that are like use this ability so many times, use this in the specific way, defeat this specific type of enemy. And that's what I thrive for in games, just like missions, man, a reason to keep doing things. And if you can if the variety of things you have to do is vast, that's amazing. um, One criticism that people had about this game is they didn't like that you had to, like, you couldn't just be the one class that you like, because in order to level up you have to kind of like complete these quests as all these different forms you take. Um, I was very tempted to say, but they're wrong. That's the best part. I mean, everyone's free to have their own opinion, but no, I thought that was brilliant because where it went from there is if you level up, say, the mouse who can gnaw at people and poison them, and if you get them to, I might be mixing up characters. Yeah, if you gnaw them, I think you can regain health if you happen to gnaw them and they run out of health at that point. Uh, so let's say the gnaw ability. If you level up the mouse, get the gnaw ability to a high enough level, you could then go to the horse and be like, cool, horse, when I press X, you now have that gnaw ability. So like even though you could like, okay, this is the character I'm being who has these powers. If you level up your character enough, you could mix and match powers. Um, some of which are only effective against certain enemies and stuff. So by the end, you want to be able to quickly, and that's the thing too. Like most times, depending on what dungeon you're in, you could switch on the fly. Like I think it's just like you press the right stick maybe, and it brings up the wheel of your most recent forms. Of which I want to say there was like by the time the game's over, like 20 of these things. So you're not forced to memorize these 20 different classes, but like you might want to have a good indication of like, okay, I'm gonna run this dungeon as this guy, unless I run into an enemy with a high armor, let's say, then I want to be able to switch to this other class, which you can do by opening up a wheel. I think actually it might have been just like holding, no, not it wasn't one of the face buttons. A wheel that you can switch. But yeah, they had a lot of reasons for why you want to be this class at this dungeon versus this class at this dungeon. A lot of it had to do. I think there were like 4 elements, and some bad guys you did encounter were straight up you can't damage them until they take green damage, and then so you got to be a class that can do green damage, or has the ability of a class that could do green damage. Pretty satisfying experience, a really satisfying experience. Um, a good length too. Like I would have been fine if they added another 20 hours to it. Um, Probably would have ran out of things for me to do though, so maybe I take that back. But yeah, apparently I beat it in 31 hours. They did release DLC some point later in the year. I haven't played it yet. I think it adds a few more forms, more of the story, but it's not free. So I just didn't. So after a very swell game like that, I also got Telling Lies. Sorry, I just reinstalled Twitch Studio. Okay, 28 minutes. Okay, I'm making progress. In fact, let me look at my spreadsheet for a second. No, I'm still in February. Dang. Okay, Telling Lies. Okay, so I have mentioned so far this idea of just like, games you can play, and do games need to have a challenge in them? I saw Yahtzee from The Escapist. Zero Punctuation. That's what the show is called. Um, Recently do a video which I thought was really strange, where he said like, do games have to be fun? And it's just like it was a strange question that I'm not entirely sure needed to be asked, or like where that came. Do they need to be? So yeah, one thing I'm willing to discuss though is like, does there are like an experience like this, and there's another one I talk about in September. Um, does a game necessarily, or as I mentioned with unpacking and paparazzis, like does a game need to have a challenge and a win-lose condition? See, I don't know how to end that question. I mean, the question mark could just be there, or do I keep talking and say like, in order to be a blank enough experience, satisfying, compelling, I don't know. So Telling Lies, how the gameplay works is, I think it even starts off with you see someone sit down at a computer, and they open up the computer, and it has some sort of database in it with a search query, and you can search in words. I think only one word at a time. And so you type in a word, and then I think it was a handful. I didn't play in a while, so let's say it was like up to 5, or maybe I'm wrong. I think it was limited. Let's say 5 different thumbnails of video clips pop up, and you can click on one. And what all these video clips are were just different, well, videos, but all taken from stuff which, like, if I may give something away, it almost seemed like if the trying to think of the U.S. government agency that supposedly listens to everyone's phone calls, or so essentially it's like every camera that exists somewhere, like in people's laptops, in people's cell phones, on like ATMs, or the back of, or on dash cams. Let's say someone had access to being able to turn on anyone's camera at any time, and so here's just this found footage which exists in a database. Or in some cases, you'll see at the start of the clip someone deliberately turns on their phone so that it's pointed in that direction because they're sneaking, they're being sneaky and making sure they're recording footage of the conversation they're about to have with someone. Anywho, so type in a word, thumbnails, click on the thing, you see a video, and it has dialogue. I believe the entire game has to be subtitled, and so essentially the word you typed in will be a word in the dialogue at some point in this video clip you're watching. And yeah, so pretty much the point of the game is you start off knowing nothing. I think there's a bit of a tutorial where it's just like, welcome to this database program. Here's how you can browse and navigate through this thing. Yeah, so you watch videos, and then you see a video. It could be candid thing. It could be secretly recorded. It could be one, or oh, that was it too. A lot of it was, let's say, because if it was footage taken of a camera on someone's laptop, and they're skyping, so to speak, with someone, a lot of the dialogue was, or that you're hearing, or the conversation you're hearing, you can only hear what the person speaking to that camera is saying, and you have to kind of infer what the other person is saying to them. But it's clearly, the whole thing is written and scripted, so it's not, you don't watch a clip and it's not just someone going like, yeah, it was Bob, okay, bye, like that. It's a lot of like, oh no, this is troubling. Do you think Bob was involved? Oh man, because he was at the crime scene that day. Oh man, and that knife, right? Yeah, Officer Jervis found that knife. Oh no. I also don't remember the dialogue at all. So the point is, it's like, oh, okay. So from there, and then it's like, okay, well, no, gotta go. And then, yeah, so okay, so you watch that. You could favorite that clip if you want to. But then you go back to the database and you're just like, okay, Officer Jervis. So you type in Jervis, and you might find other clips where people mention Officer Jervis, which could very well start with a man going, like, answers the phone and goes, Officer Jervis speaking. Yeah, I busted this guy Bob. Yeah, at the pier. Yeah, drugs. What are you gonna do? Yeah, they mentioned a new one called Chloroborn, and so on. So me playing this game, it's a lot of, okay, what's going on here? What is the story? How can I find out more? And then, what, sometimes you watch a clip, like you go down this path of like, okay, here I am trying to investigate Now, of course, I'm not talking about what really happens in the story, but just using these examples I just created. Like there was a knife, was a guy stabbed, is a drug bust, and sometimes you just find a clip that happens to have the word knife in it, but it had nothing to do with what you're investigating. But in that scene is something completely like, whoa, that's fascinating too. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep track of knife mystery over here. Put it down. What are you talking about? Pregnant lady, and so on. So it's a pretty interesting experience. And if nothing else, I would recommend this to people who are just like who want to explore or want an example of video games as more of an art medium. How they don't have to be violence, they don't have to be competition, they don't have to. They really don't have to be anything, right? Because here, this was indeed a solid experience. Um, and then yeah, but the kicker is by the time I got to the end of it, um, it just well, it kind of ends with at some point because yeah, like I'm saying, when you start off, you see someone sit down at a computer, and over time you see like these little cut scenes that interrupt the gameplay where this person. Oh, what's that? Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you for the coffee. And that just shows you okay, you've seen X percent of the video clips to find, and then by the end, unfortunately, the game kind of ends when it's just like, well, you did it. You found enough of the video clips. Uh, and to some extent, it's like, well, yeah, you wouldn't have been able to find all the clips if you didn't figure out what words to put in to find these, relevant phrases. Or in theory, you could just dictionary attack the entire game. Um, but yeah, so by the end of it, what's nags at me a little bit is just this idea of like, unfortunately, you could beat it without necessarily knowing what the story is. But then it's just like, well, is there any significance to beating something? I mean, if you don't get it, I mean, if you don't get it, are you enjoying it? You could be enjoying it, whatever. You're just watching videos that aren't to you aren't connected at all. Um, I don't know. It's a lot of ugh. Whether or not I can tell the one person or another, oh, it's good, you should try it. I can't. um, or I'd have to talk to that person first. And then just completely out of something else. The next game I played from there, which seemingly I didn't play well anything else in Game Pass between these two games for 20 days. So Telling Lies and Middle Earth: Shadow of War, which I'm a little surprised at myself because this is a sequel to a game and I didn't play the first one. Um, I feel there was something about the reviews though that made me think like I don't know. I think I just read the reviews and they were a lot like, yeah, that first game was game of the year when it came out, and then this game is more of that. So yay! So it's like okay, well, going by that, this game sounds pretty good, and it certainly was. And there were a lot of surprises in it, and I like that a little from the get go, it seemed like I wasn't sure. I can't remember if I guessed this or looked at it first, but it's just like it seems to me like this is not necessarily canon with the rest of Lord of the Rings. Um, but I was surprised to find that some of the stuff that I, learned in this game is actually applicable to the Rings of Power, or at least one of the main characters is. Whether or not, but yeah, so it's just kind of like yeah. My point being, I thought it had touched on the ideas of Lord of the Rings, but was its own thing. I'm still, but at this point, I don't know if it is or isn't. So, point is, you can enjoy it without needing to know too much about Lord of the Rings. Um, but if you do, then you might appreciate it more. And yes, this game was indeed so good that I decided to, and it was on sale, and like well, it was on sale. I did end up buying the Game of the Year versions of this game as well as the first game. But I think both were like, for both Game of the Year versions came to like $13. So that's awesome. I didn't need to buy the game version of this game because it was on um, Game Pass, but like, the game plus season pass was negligibly priced. And it's just like, well, sure, I'll pay the extra dollar now in case this game's ever taken off Game Pass. Although it is a little interesting that, like, why is this game on Game Pass but not the older one, or vice versa? Either way, I don't know. It worked. They got me to spend money. um, let's see, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. I It's interesting. I feel like this is, well. So prior to subscribing to Game Pass, one of the last games I purchased outright was Marvel's Avengers, which then was added to Game Pass. So I didn't have to buy it, but I did. And I remember I didn't buy it up front. Like, I thought it'd be a good PAX Carry game. But I think I waited at least a year before buying Marvel's Avengers, because it was getting like pretty mixed reviews about, like, oh, the trailers and the first levels are awesome, but then once you get into it, it's just grindy and the loot is stupid. So then I started getting more like, okay, because yeah, I think they're both Square Enix. I think, or so somehow related to each other, and so I would have been a little, I think I would have definitely been interested in this title, but not sure if for certain I would have bought it. And then it's on Game Pass, and I think it was a day one release too, so that's a fantastic deal right there. Um, and I've been enjoying it slowly. There is a friend of mine who notoriously notoriously doesn't play video games. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's just, well, I know he doesn't. Very nerdy guy, like icon of nerdy guys. Um, doesn't play video games. One time he participated in a Mega Man stream because he was supposed to be like the, ooh, I am lousy at video games. Watch me suffer. Give me money and we'll keep playing and I'll suffer some more. But he put on Facebook one day that, like, he beat this game. Like, so I was just like, whoa, this guy actually. I still haven't. So I'm kind of surprised at that. Like, when he said that, I figured, oh, okay, it's just like a 5 hour romp or something. Um, so I put 11 hours, but I've been playing a little more of it this month for an achievement challenge. So yeah, it's actually a pretty longer than a movie. Well, it's a video game, and you would hope it's longer than a movie, but it does keep going and going in satisfying directions. It's not just so much like, oh, okay, we're an introduction, maybe a prologue of enemies that don't really matter, and then, oh, here's the obvious bad guy. Let's beat him. Okay, and then we're done. Like, no, you end up going to a lot of places to be like, oh, how do we approach this? Oh, I know. Let's go somewhere completely different and do a thing. But sorry, I'm just rambling at this point. It's a pretty satisfying experience. So you control Star Lord most of the time, and so I. It's novel that you're playing a game where, and I guess Dragon Age was like this. As I start describing it, um, you play as one character in a team of characters, all of whom have their own unique abilities. Although Drax and Gamora are pretty much just like do massive damage. Only one's with fists and one's with the sword. Uh, and but you're so you're in the action too because you've got guns, you've got rocket boots, you're able to do well in combat, hopefully. But at the same time, you're also the team's coordinator. So you have your own abilities, which have their cooldown time, but you're also keeping an eye on your team and telling them to activate their abilities, which you unlock over time. And they all do different things, and you're always trying to keep track of just like, okay, when's this cooldown? So it's an interesting amount of coordination and doing your own action, but you might be able to just solo it, but it's that much easier, I think, if you also let the other Guardians just go ahead and demolish things, blow them up, hold them down, because with roots. Oh, and yeah, excellent soundtrack. Guardians of the Galaxy, you gotta have an excellent soundtrack. I noticed right away that, in fact, I think it says when you start the game, like, do you want to turn on the streamer mode, in which they take out the soundtrack, um, which is in. I've noticed games that started doing this. What was the first game I saw that did that? I want to say it was like a Telltale game, but I might be just way off. Maybe it was Kingdom Hearts, because all their Disney stuff, right? But yeah, it was like I think it's interesting and intriguing that the developers have this in mind, where it's just like, you know what? Yeah, people playing games, yeah, keep doing that, but they're also aware of video game streaming services and how a lot of people, like a lot of their audience, might be just watching, or a lot of people who play and demonstrate with people. So you got to be aware of these things, like, oh, we have this awesome 80s soundtrack in this game, but we don't want to get people in trouble. So at launch, like I think you boot it up, you start a new game, it's just like, oh, do you want to play in like Twitch streamer mode, in which we turn off all the volume, or all the, well, not all of the volume, but all the music, all the background music, um, which is unfortunate because there is a thing in the game where let's say you're losing and you're just like, oh man, I got to turn on trance, if I may take a coin from Final Fantasy 9, where you can just be like, okay, everyone group up, and then they all the Guardians start talking to you like, oh man, we're out there getting our asses handed to us, or something PG. You gotta listen to what they say to find like a clue, and you gotta use that clue to like come up with a response to get people pumped. And then as a result, if you do it right, everyone gets like full HP, probably some resistance to damage, superpowers, and all that. But it's also what kicks off this event is like Star-Lord holds up his cassette player, and an 80s hit will start playing. I think the last time I did that, it was Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up," which is just like, not only, oh man, that's ridiculous, but also just like, yeah, yep, pew 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 pew. I'm in it, Rick Astley. So yeah, this certainly I feel would be a game that you would want to advertise Game Pass with, because they're always all the time saying like, oh, we got day one releases, but it's just like, yeah, but who's got the time to play everything, right? And it's just like, well, or I guess by saying day one release, it's like, okay, you don't have to go out and spend full price on the full price of a game, or you don't have to wait. You don't have to do either. You can just boom, you've got Game Pass. This is in your lap. You can play it. But I like how they don't spend any time emphasizing, or you don't have to play it right away. Whatever, man. Especially for like single player experiences like this. Single player experiences, day one releases, Tunic. I don't know. Let me see if I can make sense of this. I think maybe I was still playing Middle Earth Shadow of War and whatever the first one's called, Shadow of Mordor, I think. Um, I started playing and it was neat. It's a little dangerous. Like it's a little. You're a character and you're moving around and you can't really move that quickly and you got a sword. It's a very novel experience. It's very reminiscent of Legend of Zelda games on the SNES, of which I guess there was only one. I don't know why I'm saying like games. The Game Boy stuff too. Except this top down and like that isometric thing, which means it's at an angle. It's a lot of exploration. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Something about it is just like it was charming. It was neat. One thing that was neat is like along the way, if you find them, they are collectibles. They're not all necessarily like, oh, you're bound to find these. But there's these collectibles that you find that are pages of an instruction manual. Which the instruction manual, what the heck is that, right? It's also trying to get you to think about days of yore on the Super Nintendo and such, where games came with instruction manuals. But like you get like certain pages of it where it's just like, oh, okay, this is the page where they explain this ability, which back in the day, you read the instruction manuals and you're like, oh, obviously A is jump. Why are you telling me this book? But here it's just like, oh, I legit didn't think that I could roll and swing my sword at the same time or stuff like that. But yeah, I unfortunately didn't get very far, but it has been installed on my Xbox this entire time since March. Um, I guess I want to play it for 45 minutes. Not good. Wasteland 3. I get once that's 2 games in a row now where it's just like I really am surprised in myself that I didn't spend. Oh, apparently I played this game for 4 hours, but it feels like I'm just outside the tutorial. There's games that exist which I think I really like, but then I just don't really play them. Or when I do, it's just like, oh, this is like I want tactics, I want there to be structure, but when I actually get into it, it's just like, oh man, this is just too much. Sometimes I just want to load up the game, get in the action, play for an hour. But like this, it kind of seems like, oh no, you need to. Like each time I boot it up, it kind of feels like, well, kind of feels like I'm inviting people over to play Dungeons and Dragons, where it's just like, yes, there's so much, like I'm trying, only it's just me playing, where it's like I'm assembling these teams or like individual party members, making sure they're equipped, making sure they're learning the skills that they need to have variety, but also have their own unique. It's tactics. I think I love tactics, but unless a game like Mario and Rabbids, I'm looking forward to playing the sequel when it is eventually a fine enough price. But Mario and Rabbids, it's tactics. I love it, and you can just jump in and just do what I described, where it's like you jump in and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna play the next level. Level's over. That maybe took 10, 15 minutes. I can stop or keep playing. But this looks like a vast experience, and once again, I'm surprised I didn't look at the first Wasteland or the second, but I think they're all available on Game Pass. But they all sound like they're gonna take hundreds of hours. I just thought, you know what, go with the one that is the by at this point the game's an institution. It's proved itself. This one probably has some fixes or has some improvements that the older ones didn't. I don't know. I just went with it, and then must have got distracted at some point. But yeah, it's very big, and sometimes that's scary. Where it's just like I don't. Sometimes I want to lose myself to a game where it'll be like a big epic adventure, but unless it really catches me, it's easy to just be like, oh, but then I felt like playing wacky, fun other game one day, and then didn't turn back to Wasteland 3. Bite-sized adventures. That's the point. Hey, look at this. Gorogoa. Hey, I did say it right. Um, this was so far. I've already mentioned, quick games. And yeah, this is I was gonna say a sandwich of a game. That doesn't make any sense. It is, well, as far as meals go. Yeah, it's a sandwich. It's not a main course. No, lose this analogy. Yeah, it's a pretty quick game. You know you're going to be able to beat if you do. It's an arty experience in which, yeah, you play it, and it's just like, whoa, man, I didn't know video games could do that. It is a puzzler. It seemingly took, or I played it for 4 hours. I feel like one of the achievements was like beat this game in an hour, or maybe even like 30 minutes, something like that. So it is possible. But yeah, you're probably not gonna do it on your first run because yeah, it's a lot of like just point and click stuff. Move this tile here. Zoom in on this painting. Inside the painting is a tree. Zoom out. Grab a stick. Zoom in. The stick allows you to poke at an apple, which drops. Zoom out. Now that the picture of the tree has an apple which has fallen, the painting is now crooked. So yeah, I feel like trippiness, puzzles where you need to think outside the box, arty stuff, and you've got 2-3 hours between games, or it's just like you just want to eat something one day. Am I hungry? Is that why I'm trying these analogies? Gorogo was fine. A friend of mine really enjoyed it and would recommend it to everyone. Sims 4, back on the topic of games that, yeah, are a lot. Um, I Yeah, I don't know. Maybe April was just a month where I was just like, yeah, I want to sink my teeth into big titles. Or maybe I just figured, you know what? I hadn't played a Sims game in 15 plus, maybe not 15 plus, let's say more than 10 years. Let's see what they can do. And it does look like they did upgrade a lot of things, made things streamlined, so to speak. I did like that when you're on a certain person, you can see like here are their aspirations, here's their career, here are what they should be going for in order for them to develop or level up, so to speak. These are the things they should be doing. Depending on their career, it could be more creative type endeavors, or athletic, or even just like talking to people or playing an instrument to loosen up the mind and develop creativity, stuff, whatever. And then you just do it. I don't know. There's just something about it though, where the idea of it sounds neat to start off with a blank space, and then ever so slowly fill it with things. Oh, we need furniture. Furniture. Oh, we need fridge. Oh, yeah. But I don't know. It's just something about building a house, designing rooms, doing this. The mechanic of it just doesn't appeal to me as much as I think it should, and then it just doesn't. But they have that safety net available where it turned out to get all the achievements, I could just load onto the EA servers and like download families which people have already played with who are this close to getting the achievement, and then you just get it. Also, yeah, it's playable on consoles, but really it should be on PC with a mouse for sure. um, I mean, I guess enough people want to play them on consoles though. or it's just like or enough people will buy them on consoles, but it's just like it just doesn't work as effectively. I don't think. And I don't know if I just take people's or companies' words for it. It's like, oh, they made it available on consoles, therefore it should work just fine. But sometimes no, they don't really take the time to go. Okay, well, people are going to be using a controller for this, so, or at least they don't. Well, I don't know. I'm not in that field of work. But still, took me 6 hours to accomplish everything I wanted to do. Flynn, Son of Crimson, which actually let me check, is the second game I'm listing which has been removed from Game Pass. And yeah, very solid experience. This one was a platformer, and yeah. So when I search for occasionally, so what a neat thing about Game Pass too is because like okay, they have so many games available. Um, and yeah, sometimes I just get an itch for like what I haven't played in a while. Uh, and of that list, platformers is one of them. I don't know, like there's not a lot of. It seems to me like it's the most straightforward type of game one could make, but there's just not that many platformers that exist. Or I'm just saying something completely dumb. Celeste. Well, Cuphead was more about the gunning than the running. Um, and yeah, there are examples where there's a lot of shooting, but yeah, I just want platforming and stuff sometimes. Um, so yeah, you can kind of search by categories of like, and yeah, like I'm saying, Tactics is a game I search for, and then it doesn't always pay off for me. A platformer, occasionally you do come across one. Yeah, so Flynn, Son of Crimson was good. You do unlock like a lot of it is as you're going along and just exploring these. Well, I say exploring. I think for the most part it was legitimately start of level, bit of a maze, end of level. And sometimes if you go the wrong branch, it could pay off with either these crystals you use to unlock more abilities, so that's good. Or, I think every level or most of them had some sort of artifact to collect, um, which, scratches that puzzle itch a little bit. But yeah, I think it turned out that there were actually too many of these crystals for upgrades because by the end it was just like, cool. Oh, there's a boss now. Well, I have more than enough healing. And I think actually, when did it? I didn't write down when it was removed, but I think this was a game that I started. Not so it must have been out for a while before I started, and then it's like, oh, it's being removed. Okay, well, let me just beat it, and by the end of the week, maybe it was done. And you know what? That is a fun experience too. I find this will be a knock against Game Pass perhaps, but like sometimes when you have too many choices, that's when you start, just like playing games and starting them, playing games, starting them. But yeah, when you tell me that like, oh, here's a game and you have been playing it, oh, but it's not going to be free anymore you know, I think they usually, I think they give you like 15 days to a month's notice that a game's going to be removed. But yeah, once they do, it's just like, oh man, suddenly that kicks me into overdrive of just like, did I like that game enough that I want to finish it? Yeah, I liked it enough. Then bam, it'll be done. I come to think about it, I don't remember too much about this game. But it did satisfy a craving that I had, which was platformers, violence, stabbing. I don't recall having too much difficulty with any of the bosses. There may have been different difficulties though. I probably played on normal. It was good. It was a good game. I don't know. Dead Cells. Um, is surprisingly the first roguelite on the list so far. Because I'm trying to think of when I beat Hades. That would have been last year, yeah. For the first half, yeah. So last year, like I'm saying, like that's when I discovered roguelites, and that became my favorite genre. It went from that sounds stupid. Why would you play a game that you can't possibly win on the first run, and the game is made longer because of how hard it is? Um, but no, Dead Cells is solid. Um, or I played it a few times and was like, yes, I could certainly see myself playing this game, playing one run, and it lasting months and months and months. And yeah, they keep releasing DLC. Unfortunately, it's not all free. And it is a little discouraging because you go into you start a game, they put you in this I think you start in a sewer. So yeah, a bunch of mazes. You go around. I haven't yet determined if, like, I think it's still a maze every time, like a randomly generated thing. But they do challenge you to get it done quickly. So I don't know how they can do both. Like I don't know if you could play by taking your time, killing everyone, accumulating all the money, but at the risk of you lose health the more monsters you come across. Or theoretically, you could run through everyone and try to complete speed challenges rather than endurance and combat. Or you get rewarded for either play style, is my point. So yeah, as you're going through these mazes, though, sometimes you'll come across the exit of the level, and it'll just straight up tell you, "Oh, sorry, you can't go through this exit because you don't have this DLC." And it's kind of just like, well, that is very discouraging and kind of dumb. Like it almost seems like I don't know if that ever tricks people into buying the DLC, or if people are just like, I'm sick of that happening, I'm gonna buy the DLC. But you would think, especially if it is randomly generated, which maybe it's not. Yeah, I could look that up. I don't know. You'd think that when you start a run, it would look at your files and just be like, oh, they don't have this DLC. Don't have that door appear. Right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, so I haven't, but now, unfortunately, so I like this game. It's solid. Something must have either distracted me or I think that was it. But yeah, I ended up not getting that far. Or maybe I did get pretty. Well, actually, I feel like I did when the last runs was. It felt far to me. I could, for all I know, only have reached halfway. Um, but certainly, there's a lot of upgrades still to get and discover and learn. And I did pick it up. So let's see. I started playing in June 8th. And seemingly I logged 5.5 hours. And so, you can guess maybe if a run is 20, 30 minutes, then, I played 11 times, let's say. Pretty good. And yeah, there's a lot of achievements for just like, oh, you've come here for the first time. And yeah, getting a lot of those were just like, oh, is this new? Wow, I haven't really explored a lot of content. I guess one thing I didn't care for though is like when you start off. Well, I think as you play, there's essentially 3 flavors of things you can level up, which are red, purple, and green. Red seems to be more just attack, attack, attack. Green. Well, okay. Well, when you start off, you get 1 of 3 weapons. Or I'm getting this wrong. It's like a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, or a shield. And I feel if this were an RPG, I'd pick shield more often because I like the idea of like, cool, I can out survive anything. That's neat. But the shield, I never got used to. But considering it is, at least when you start, like one of 3 weapons, it is pretty annoying. That's just like, oh, I don't like one of 3 weapons, because essentially it's like, yeah, you could hold it up to block, and damage is reduced. But like, who's gonna do that? Well, you can reduce damage, or if you learn, you can parry. But of course, if you miss the parry, then you get hit, and you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to get hit more if you're not good. It seems like that's a thing that I would have to spend a lot of time to learn, so I avoid it. Arrows are interesting because you can run out of arrows, or like, let's say you get 7 arrows, so it's like you shoot them at an enemy, and then they have 7 arrows stuck in them. You can't shoot anymore until that enemy's dead, so you need to run up and stab them, or huck bombs. I don't know. It's interesting stuff you can do. I don't know. There's a lot to learn, a lot to discover. Um, this game is clearly out for a long time before I started. Maybe that's my own mistake, where it's like there's a lot to learn about, whereas maybe it was introduced at a steady pace had I joined in the game early enough. But yeah, like I said, I did pick it up months later. So yeah, I started in June. Last week I was playing for an achievement challenge. And yeah, I picked it up again. It was just like, okay, I wish I could reset the tutorials. But from what I remember about this, I remember some of this, and yeah, I was having fun. I was having a lot of fun. Not getting very far though. I'm going to leave it installed on my Xbox again, and we will see. Floppy Nights. Aha! Now here's a tactics game I did enjoy and complete. It was a very satisfying experience. The art may look familiar. It's from the people who did the art for Dicey Dungeons. And yeah, so how this game works is, so there are tactics games out there where, let's see, like Advance Wars comes to mind, or Fire Emblem, or wait, I have it written down on a spreadsheet. I want to say Groove Wars was a game I played last year before it was taken off Game Pass. Groove Wars by Ticklefish. I like how I know the name of the publisher off by head, but not the name of the game. There are tactics games out there where it's a lot of, or in combination of like, okay, you can either have a number of units and you move along a map along like a square grid. You can run up and attack people, and you hope you attack them and kill them before they have a chance to attack you. Or in certain games, like Advance Wars I mentioned, and Wargroove, not Groove Wars, you could also find bases where you could build more units. And hopefully the enemy also doesn't have those resources available, otherwise, or hopefully you capture them before the enemy does. Floppy Nights, the way it plays is you have a deck of cards, or I guess based on this image, they were discs. Yes, this takes place in a world where magic's a thing, but this person also likes computers. Nothing wrong with that. Everyone's like, no, you should, get a job, be a blacksmith, or a wizard. And you're just like, nah. But my thing is computers. And watch this. I'm going to enter the science fair, and by demonstrate with my new invention, which mixes magic and technology. What? I'm going to win the science fair, and then they'll hire me to be a scientist. You'll see. And so what this person does with their robot arm friend, I want to guess their name's Clinton, but I know it's not. Carlton, maybe. So what you can do is, so you have a deck of cards. Some are spells, some are movement. So it's a combination of like the rogue like deck builder games and tactics. And since I learned to love roguelike games or card builders, Slay the Spire and such, and I like tactics, this was a good match. So yeah, some of your cards are different troops, so you don't take over bases to assemble them. Although some levels did have these computers, which you need to first unlock that computer, and then once that computer is available, then you could play your troop cards. Otherwise, we're starting areas where you can play troop cards. Um, and yeah, I did play a lot like a roguelike card builder in the sense that, let's say Slay the Spire, if I may dumb it down a lot, you had cards for attack and you had cards for defense. So you look at someone's turn and be like, okay, they're not they're not attacking me. I'm gonna play cards to do damage to them. Cool. Or in turns where they're gonna attack you, cool. I'll play defense cards so I can block the damage. In this, because it's a tactics game or like a grid-based tactics games, if I may also dumb it down, on a given turn, you look at your hand of cards and you think, okay, you gotta look at your resource. You have like an energy counter for how many which determines how many cards you can play. And certain cards require more energy, certain cards give you energy. So yeah, you gotta play. So you gotta keep in mind, okay, with my energy and my cards in my hand, and your units may also factor in. How many move actions do I have, and how many attack actions do I have? So yeah, all of that was delicious. And yeah, fortunately, so I got through the whole game. There are opportunities, like you start with a more plant-based deck, and then at some point you unlock more of like a demon-based deck, and then there's other decks. But I did manage to get through the entire game with the plant one. So really, it was just like you have the option, but at no point did I ever feel like, oh man, well, maybe I just built my deck correctly and learned lessons from all these roguelike deck builders I've been playing. And as you go, you get more cards and you replace your cards, and as long as your deck is still built well, at least I managed to go through the entire game without at any point going like, oh man, I can't, and I don't want to start over. Like I don't want to rebuild my deck from scratch. I didn't have to. It was satisfying. That being said, though, there were some. Well, actually, each mission had like a to beat this mission, accomplish this, and there's a bonus if you accomplish this. So it is possible that maybe I could have just beat all the levels easy, but also doing that bonus mission, yes, there were a lot of missions where it was like, okay, it was close, oh boy, but maybe I didn't have to be so punishing on myself. But I did manage to do both throughout. A little bit of a downer is, like, let's say these missions are 30 minutes each. There's no saving, which, okay, so you can't cheese it. That's kind of a plus. But yeah, it's kind of like, okay, if you're going to sit down and play, like, you got to decide you're playing this, and maybe want to play like 1 or 2 levels at a time, then did something else. And there was a challenge mode after the fact. Well, I wait. You unlock challenges as you beat each level, or just if you wait till the end, you have all the challenges unlocked. And in those ones, they were more puzzles. There was like, here's the deck you're using. Figure out how to solve this mission, and that's good too, because at least in those cases, it's like, okay, you can beat this because it is possible. And that's usually how I get through. Those are the games I like, where it's just like, it's hard, but you know that it's possible. As opposed to what, Kerry? As opposed to games that are hard and possible only in the sense that, like, well, the best players in the world could do it. Okay. 25 hours. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Middle Earth Shadow of War was 66. Monster Sanctuary 64. 31 for Nobody Saves the World. Floppy Knights, 25 hours. Pretty solid game. Pretty solid experience. Would I have bought this? I don't know. But here's a game that I've been looking forward to years and was definitely gonna buy, and then I didn't have to. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Although, what month are we on? So this is June 18th. Yeah, game I would have purchased, no question. It looked solid. It was exciting. I don't know, like it just seems to me that in the Super Nintendo era and before, beat 'em ups were just awesome. Um, sure, our tastes have changed and technology has made it so like, hey, other game experiences are possible, but it just seems like I don't know how they haven't been able to make a beat 'em up which is as good as they were solid experiences back in the day. This is though, it is solid. Um, and I was actually very surprised. I don't know if I just got bad information, but yeah, I was able to play this. You can play it 6-player on a single console. That's another thing that games don't do anymore is have you play multiple players in one sitting, or in one like couch co-op is what I'm trying to come up with. Even freaking multiverses, which has verses in the name, and it's like a Smash Bros. Game. But we found out, like, I thought this was going to be the PAX Carry game of the PAX Carry, but without everyone getting their own Microsoft profiles, we couldn't sit down and play together. It was very frustrating. But this game, like, I didn't even know you could play Xbox games 6 players. Fortunately, I went and made sure I had. Well, I bought one more controller than I thought. I knew one of my controllers, the shoulder button's not working, so I went out and bought another controller. So then I just happened to have 5 controllers, and we played it 5-player. So I'm exaggerating when I say, "Oh, we play 6-player," but we could have. Solid experience, solid length. I've run through the story mode twice now, and it's about 4 hours each time. Which, you know what? That was 2 solid days of like, this is what we're gonna do today, guys: is come together and play Ninja Turtles. And they eat pizza. And yeah, I'm just super relieved I didn't have to pay money for it. So yeah, so that actually so far, I mean, just based off the information I have or had, well, okay, yeah. On name alone and what information I had, this is the first game that I straight up, or so far this year that I've played, that I would have just, if I didn't have Game Pass, I know for certain I would have purchased. Looking at the list though, it's like Middle Earth Shadow of War. Clearly, I wouldn't have because I didn't for so many years. I mean, I eventually saw it was $13 for both games. If someone had just recommended it to me, I'd been like, okay. Or if someone recommended it and said it was made it sound half as good as it was, sure. Um, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe I would have read reviews first. Waited for it to come down in price, maybe. Dead Cells, and I guess that's really unfair for me to say because it's like, okay, well, you're conceiving of a world which didn't exist. If you didn't have access, if I didn't have access to these games that I have been playing up to this point in this year, like if I didn't have Game Pass, I would have been buying video games. What games would I have bought? And I just don't have the answer to that question. Except for I would have bought, pointing the wrong way, Shredder's Revenge. Watched that trailer so many times. Looks so cool. But so actually, yeah. So well, spoilers. 2 games I would have purchased, or looking through the list, and I'm reading up until December of last week. Another game I would have bought is Mass Effect Legendary Edition. which I dare say was not a day one title. I don't know if it came out in a, well, I don't know. I think it wasn't. Well, yeah, I guess because with EA Play, I think they have like they'll release sports games, and before they're on Game Pass, they'll be like, you could play for 20 hours. So I think EA, even though a lot has a lot of stuff on Game Pass, they're not necessarily first day. So I don't think Mass Effect Legendary Edition was. Also, I was reserved because, like, you know what? Prior to playing the Legendary Edition, I had all the achievements. So now that I've started Legendary Edition again, or started the Legendary, now I don't have. I had half the achievements again. Well, 4/7. Um, let's see. So yeah, I suggest I would have bought this game on sale eventually. Maybe I'm not too keen on, especially since the all four of the games are playable in the current generation. Um, I'm not too. I'm not a. I care about remastering kind of guy. Like graphics mean very little to me, or so I think, or so I say. Um, and actually, playing through the first game or Mass Effect in Legendary Edition, it's kind of scary. Like I don't know, like yeah, some of the environments are gorgeous, but some of the characters look like monsters, and it's or the human characters, I should say. I guess Krogan's always were, or already were, not already monsters. Um, and yeah, I think this has come down in price anyway, but I don't know if it's under maybe $30 at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if I have seen it for 25. So yeah, just good fun, good to have. And yeah, I did restart, and I feel like I am gonna play through 2 or 3 times. So right now I'm doing another run that's just like close enough to my default. It's hard to call it my default run because I know all the things that are going to happen, and so some of my decisions are influenced by my meta knowledge. I am, and I will play through again on Insanity. Although, yeah, what is different about this run, I played the original run through as Engineer. Now I'm playing more Biotic. My Insanity run, I'm sure I'll pick whatever class is recommended to make that the easiest. Which I think in the first game is maybe like Soldier, and by the time you get to the third game, is a combination is whatever class allows you to like disappear and then do critical damage when you reappear. Um, I can't remember the second, or maybe I am thinking of the second game when the thing I just said. Yes, not the second game. Third game, I think I was just myself again, and also I am tempted to do a run where you try to get the worst possible ending in Mass Effect 2. Like you make it so everyone like you fail everyone's loyalty missions. Um you make it so Zaid is on your team for the final mission so that like he leaves the ship with you and then you do his loyalty mission where he dies in a fire. and then and then so you start off Mass Effect 3 and everyone's dead. Just to see how that plays out. And also, I think you could theoretically start earlier, in like in the first game. You know, I don't want. It's been out for 20 years, man. That's it. Mass Effect. Oh yeah. The point is, have something happen to Rex. But you saw how hard I was trying to not say a gosh darn thing. Such a powerful trilogy. I'm a little saddened that the person who I someone I tried to get someone to start playing the trilogy this year. They didn't get very far. Kind of weird. Immortality, which I didn't. Immortality. So from the same people who made Telling Lies, and well, I haven't played Her Story. Um, Telling Lies. Sorry, Immortality. Uh, it's another game where the gameplay is you going through footage and trying to learn the story. The goal, like, you have to figure out, like, well, you almost start off with nothing except maybe what you've gleaned at by looking, well, not at the box art. That's not a thing. I'm just gonna say right now, I'm gonna try not to say anything. More than the premise. Yeah, just go with there. So it is footage, but unlike footage that's found in hidden cameras, it's not people's recorded phone calls. It is footage that was, well, either a combination of found footage and footage that people shot while making one of three movies, which all had the same actress in them. And when you're looking at this footage, it is clear enough, or you start to I'm just saying, it's clear enough to see what movie you're looking at, because they are very thematically different. But it is a little weird sometimes when it's like, oh, okay, so, well, actually, I think it's pretty sure when you're looking at, okay, here's when they're shooting a scene of a movie, it is both the actress and the character in that movie that you're looking at, obviously. So that part doesn't get too confusing. Although one of the movies, one of the movies is about it's about a person who looks like a movie, or like no, not a movie star. I think like a famous singer, and the singer hires this person to impersonate them in public appearances, so she doesn't have to go. Doesn't sound that too confusing, but then the point is, though, when you have footage of an actor playing a character who impersonates another person, and you don't know any of this information yet, you just think, wait, she's talking about an agent. Wait, the agent in the story, or agent in, because she's an actress? that part's a bit of a mind flip. But yeah, so once again, it's kind of like Telling Lies in the set. Well, there's a story. Well, in this case, it's more than, it's like the movies themselves plus what's going on behind the scenes. So there's a lot of things to kind of solve, plus an overarching thing. And if you start noticing things happening that shouldn't be happening, or doesn't make sense that it takes place in this movie and this movie. Unlike, so how you navigate through the footage in this one, though, is that, like, let's say you have an image like this one. So it is a good thing I used a screen cap instead of using the picture, like the box art. So, like, you're watching a clip. There's audio, there's video, and at any time you can pause, and you can just be like, okay, this guy, he's got a tie on. So if you click on the tie, it'll zoom in on the tie, and it'll either say, like, nope, tie isn't relevant, but let's say it is. So you click on a tie, it'll zoom in, and then it'll zoom back out, but like on a completely different footage of someone else wearing a tie, or it could be the same person wearing the same tie. it's just in a different clip kind of thing, and that's how you navigate. And so that is how you can kind of like get lost and like, because there could have been, this guy is wearing a tie, but in another movie someone else could have been wearing a tie, so you might be trying to go through a rabbit hole of this one movie, and then suddenly you're on this one now. um but every footage, every same way, so yeah, every footage you find, you can press B and go back to a menu, and like they'll show all the clips you found. And yeah, the game is, one way of seeing the game is beaten is when you have all the footage. And yeah, I suppose if you're not a dummy, if you can kind of, well, plus you can sort it by date. Um, Hopefully by the end you've clued in on like, oh, okay, this is what's happened. This is how it's all connected. Blah. But theoretically, you could also just like win by click, 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 click. Yay, I found everything. It's over. So once again, it comes down to, do games necessarily have to be beaten for them to be an experience? Apparently not. I need to calm down, maybe. But yeah, solid. Got 12 and a half hours of playing this. And the actress is attractive, so that was good. Oh yeah, I was kind of hoping this would be a contender for the PAX Carry Game of the PAX Carry, because last year we played 12 minutes, and that was kind of ooh, what do we do? How do we explore? But yeah, I booted this up, and people were just like, "This is weird what we're looking at." And it was a good thing that we ended up not playing it, because yeah, there's nudity, and that could have gotten real weird. Back to the trend I was having of, once again, I go back and forth where it's just like I complain about, does a game need to have an objective for it to be a game if you just know you can do it if you just do? And yet, I like Power Wash Simulator. um, it's it scratches that itch of just like, you know what, the day is done. I just want to play something where, as long as I'm putting time into it and not, shooting the hose the wrong way, I am accomplishing an objective of some kind. And here, you're legit washing houses and vans and or vehicles and playgrounds, and just trying to do a fine job of it. And really, it's just like you have a hose or you have a power washer, and you can got different nozzles on it. Some spray a great distance, but aren't as strong. So some of the tougher grime, if you just spray it with this bigger spray, the tougher grime stays on there. And you've got, smaller nozzles, which I don't know the word for this, have a smaller spray, but they're sharper. So theoretically, you could stick with the sharper one, but you would have to, you know, like, so really, what I end up doing a lot of the time is like I probably pick the second biggest spray, which is also the second weakest, and cover a lot of the area, and then finally go over the tougher stuff with the smallest. And that's it as far as strategy goes. I mean, eventually you get to a point where it's just like, okay, well, how do I shoot all the way up there? But you can buy an extension and or put up ladders and step things. There are soaps you can buy, and they are consumable, so I'm uncomfortable with purchasing them. Um, but I don't know. It just seems like you don't necessarily need them, but maybe they would make the job easier. There is a challenge mode I haven't touched yet, where I think it is a matter of, clean this in either the fastest time or the least water used. In which case, okay, maybe there is more of a you have to use these chemicals, which I think the point of the chemicals is like this one's more effective on metal surfaces, this one's on glass, and so on. So you might need to look at what you're cleaning and be like, okay, the optimal output would require this size of spray and this soap and this length of extension. I don't know. This point, it's like I've gotten pretty far in it. And yeah, I find it's a guilt. I treat this as a guilty pleasure because it's like I should know better. I play a lot of games. I should know what's compelling and challenging and or fun. And this is legitimately the closest thing to just like opening up an Excel sheet and making sure that every cell has the letter A in it. You know, like it's just it's no different than just dragging your mouse across a thing and making sure that every pixel on your screen has been clicked. Right? It's like how can you call that a game? But it is satisfying. I don't know, and it certainly is. Put on an audiobook, listen to a podcast, put on Power Wash, play until you want to go to bed. And is that so bad? Um, Certainly something I wouldn't want to spend money on, yet I'm willing to put time into it. Go figure. Where does that take us? Actually, further than I want to go because I did want to reveal something that was surprising when I wrote down when I made this list because I went through and so far the games have been sorted by when I started playing them. So I went to trueachievements.com and went to my profile, which is Woodrow1, and I sorted the games. Now the games are by default sorted by the last time you got an achievement in them, but you can sort by when the game was started. But I don't think you can sort them by game started plus also Game Pass. So it also included games that I played which aren't on Game Pass. Now, last year, looking at my spreadsheet, seemingly I played 53 games on Game Pass. And I'm pretty sure I bought 5. Like I could have told you what they were. And you know what? I think I did, and half of them by after I bought them were added to Game Pass. And it's just kind of like whoopsie doopsie. Plus, there you go. What a deal. They were Marvel's Avengers, Mortal Kombat, probably a Jackbox, and I don't remember what else. Maybe I even included like an itch.io bundle. But yeah, it was like 53 to 5. This year, so yeah, so I went through, sorted it by games I started, and I also looked at my budget spreadsheet where I write down everything I buy, so I know how much I spend in a year. And yeah, so by the end, or this point in time, so let's say as of December 14th, I have played or started, so to speak. There are some games that I may have resumed from last year, or and I'll get to this later, games that were being removed from the service, and so I played them. I played them again. I resumed where I left off, and I played them again. Um, but yeah, new games I started in 2022 on Game Pass, 29. Which okay, that's down, but number of games, what's the big deal if you're playing them for longer? But then I also was listing, or I because I had sorted by when I started them and had my spreadsheet of them for how games I'm spending on. How many did I buy this year, not including gifts? 30 instead of 5. So that's actually more. So yeah. So last year was 53 and 5 Game Pass games. Let me start over. Game Pass games to games I purchased. Last year was 53 to 5 This year was 30, sorry, 29 Game Pass games to 30 games I bought. So I actually have purchased more games than I played through Game Pass this year. Which is that was very surprising to me because I was absolutely under the impression of I don't buy video games anymore. Yet I'm surprised to find that no, I actually bought more than I've played through Game Pass. But here's the thing, though. Like I'm saying, because all these games are available on Game Pass, I'm however not at a point where I'm buying games new because there's no point because there's no need to. Oh, I have nothing to play. This game just came out. I guess I'll buy that right now. In fact, let me think. So the neat thing is, even though I still, in fact, well, I don't have 2020 data to compare this to. Um, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So, but here's the neat. So here's the neat thing though. I can take the 30 games I purchased, and I'm probably going to make another video about that. The average that I've spent on these games though is only $13.06 per game. So I'm still saving a lot of money because I'm not compelled. Like I'm saying, maybe that Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy game came out. Maybe I would have been tempted to buy it somewhat right away. But now, because Game Pass exists, I'm less tempted to buy. Well, certainly full price games, and now I'm not even buying games that are half price. Like I'm waiting till they're just discounted to heck. Um, Exceptions include the TMNT Cowabunga collection. I paid $56 for that. That was kind of that was once again a game I was looking at for, and it is a sweet deal. I just actually haven't gotten my money's worth out of that. Because unlike Shredder's Revenge on Game Pass, like I knew that was coming out. I invited friends over. We played it till we beat it, and I actually did that a second time by accident. Cowabunga Collection, I haven't had anyone over to play it, and I'm kind of saving these experiences. I don't know. I still haven't played any of the arcade games on it. Although I did play some of the Game Boy games on it. Those are neat. But certainly not, $56 worth. And the tournament fighters. Those were novel. Oh yeah, so let's see. So yeah, I bought Jackbox on Steam just so I could play it on Steam. Cowabunga Collection. Round Guard. I'll get to that. Round Guard's a really fun game. Next one's a game I shouldn't have bought. In fact, I asked for a refund. I don't think I'm going to get it. Jackbox Party Pack 9 for $35. That's an annual release. I'm just gonna. Well, actually, no. I was busy. I was able to wait until a Black Friday sale or Thanksgiving. I don't know. So I got that at a discount. Also, I bought Disgaea 6. But also on sale, but still $50 after tax. And that's on the Switch. So yeah, 30 games. Yeah, but average $13. So yeah, about $390. Plus, unfortunately, Xbox controller, Xbox charger, and Joy-Con controllers for the Switch was another 200. But yeah, actually, yeah. Look, some of these games are like I'm listing. I saw Saints Row was $1.69. I saw Time Splitters and the sequel were available for $4. Um, so aside from Jackbox, Ninja Turtles, Disgaea, Everything else is less than 20. Oh, yeah, Jackbox is less than $20. And then everything else on Game Pass is essentially free. Not even essentially free. Like, so yeah, back in 2020, I paid, what was it, $1 for 3 months, and it took my gold account and however much gold I accumulated, which I don't know, I don't remember why I had as much gold as I did. It converted it to ultimate, and then by doing enough Bing searches every day and achievements and just these other challenges that pop up, I haven't had to pay for ultimate since that first dollar for 3 months, and it's been 2 years. And I think I still have enough ultimate left over for until like June. So I paid $1 for ultimate. It's been 2.5 years, and it so far doesn't look like, unless Microsoft kicks in, it's like, wait a second, why are we letting this happen? Kerry's Bing search history, which every day is just L L L L L L L L L L, isn't worth free. Maybe they'll kick in. I don't know. Just a sweet deal. So when they say, when I read in the news, they're like, oh, Microsoft is saying games now are going to cost $80. It's just like, okay, they're not. That's just if you're impatient, I guess. So that was the big shock. So now, for the sake of making a thumbnail, I'm just going to do this for a second. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, thank you. Power Simulator. Yes, I've been meaning to write, and yeah, at least 12 hours playing this game. That's literally just washing cars, and yeah, that's why it's a guilty pleasure too. Is that like, I don't think I've spent 12 hours washing my bathtub. Probably could. Okay, Young Souls. Is a beat 'em up action RPG. Only played it for 12 minutes. Picked it up again. So this was in June, and then picked it up again last week. And it was the darndest thing. I picked it up, and I don't know if there was an update or something, but like the game glitched where the objective of like where to go next didn't appear anymore. And when I went to that place, there was supposed to be like a cutscene, which then leads you to the story and then allows you to go to the next spot, and it just wasn't loading. So I had to restart the game, which, oh well. Oh no, I had to do 20 minutes again, the tutorial. Game's got promise. You can play co-op, although I don't know, because by playing single player, like you play twins, but you play one person at a time. And what's neat is you can equip them with different things. So I have a feeling that may come in handy. So like currently, what I have is like, here's my default person, and I have them with strong attack gear and like health. And then they're attacking bad guys. They're usually outnumbered. You can block, you can parry, you can dash to dodge. Otherwise, it's just like attack you more than you attack me. But if I start running out of health, I can swap to the second person, who then I've given them equipment to do with more stamina and stuff, and like dodging and making sure they're just able to avoid trouble. Because when you're not this person, or vice versa, you're just passively regaining health. So the idea I'm got going on is combat, combat, combat. And then, oh no, I might not be around much longer. Now I'm healing. You fight. Aha! I'm dexterous. I have dexterity, suckers. Otherwise, well, like I said, I'm just getting started. Combat seems like not basic, but like you can do things. Well, I think eventually you learn spells and special abilities along with your equipment, so maybe I'll be able to do cool things. But now it's robust, is what it is, with my blocking and parrying and dodging, attacking, light attacks, heavy attacks. So far seems solid. I don't know how that first glitch happened. Maybe it just won't again. Hopefully it doesn't. Otherwise, it doesn't sound too long. Um, kind of interesting to see where that story goes. Game's got promise. Next game I played on Game Pass was a game called Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. And yeah, it's just this. I imagine will be a quick completion. Certainly is a game that is just like, oh, I haven't gotten an achievement today. Boot this up. In fact, last week I was in the office. There are so many games you can play on your phone, using touch controls. This game, even though it should work, but like touch controls on your phone are so dumb because for one thing, it's like yes, you can probably see show you on your screen like here's where the joystick is and here's where the circle is, but without being able to feel the joystick, like when do you play a game with a controller on a joystick and you're moving your thumb and you don't realize that my thumb's not on the joystick anymore, right? Like that never happens. So many bless them, bless Microsoft. They put so many games to make it so you can play on your phone. And I'm talking like Fallout 76, Assassin's Creed, massive titles that like how could you possibly play these games and you're covering most of the screen, right? Well, maybe your hands aren't this far. Maybe it's something closer like this. Anywho, recently I was told to treat myself because I've come across a gift card, and that's something I'm tempted to buy. Is this actually a thing that you can like? They have controllers that you can plug into your phone, and they go out to the side. Because not necessarily. There's a lot of games you can play. They call it cloud beta. And a lot of them you can play touch, but like if I could just play on my controller and turn my phone into a mobile Xbox game station, that theoretically could be dope. I just haven't committed to spending the I 40 69. I don't know how much this controller attachment is going to cost. I just haven't invested that money to try it that hard. Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. Silly game. You are a turnip boy who I think you start off and I think you get like a property tax bill and you rip it up. And so the mayor's upset with you because he's just like, hey man, no one wants to pay their taxes, but you gotta. And you tried not to, so that's illegal. So now do my bidding. And yeah, that's pretty much like how you interact with all the characters is they have a demand, and sometimes they're goofy and silly, and then sometimes they reward you, and most of the time it's with like a piece of paper. It's gonna be like, look, thank you, Turnip Boy. Here, I drew a picture of you, and you take it, and the option is you just rip it up because you're a jerk. I don't know, you look cutesy wootsy, but yeah, your character. You probably have the option to not rip things up, but that's where all the achievements are. So as far as I'm concerned, you rip everything up. And very slowly, like you get a sword, you get a watering can. I recently got a thing which allows me to make portals. So yeah, it's easy enough. But yeah, playing on my phone one day because I needed one more achievement. I managed to get through a boss fight. Should have been easy. Was hella difficult. This was after work, of course. I was working in the office, and then I went to a party later, and I was concerned I wasn't going to get home before midnight. Yeah. Probably wouldn't spend money on this, but glad it's available. That's Game Pass. Let's see. Oh, I started this one on my birthday, apparently. Disney Dreamlight Valley. Disney Dreamlight Valley, I would argue, is a better Animal Crossing than Animal Crossing. Now, when I say that, of course, it's just like, well, shouldn't you just say it's a better blank of genre? Yes, that's actually what I mean. Whatever genre that is, this is a better experience. Because I guess with Animal Crossing, you do also have the, they have their own friends and their own characters you meet. as opposed to, say, Scrooge McDuck. But I'm so thrilled to see Scrooge McDuck. I don't care that he's not an original character at all. And I think this is still an early access game, but I think I other than I think over time maybe you'll get more space and you'll meet more characters. I think in the latest update you get a couple of Toy Story characters. I haven't played since that update has been updated. And with more characters comes their own missions, and when you do their missions, you get rewards based on their properties. So that's cool. Somehow it never occurred to me that Belle's in this image, and there, I haven't seen them at all. I haven't thought about them at all. But yeah, otherwise, what you can't. Why I think it's better than Animal Crossing, which I should preface that by saying I played the first Animal Crossing, I played the most recent Animal Crossing, and nothing in between. But in the most recent one, Animal Crossing, I was a bit unnerved that you run out of things to do. Like, there's only so many in a given day. It felt like there's only so many resources, except for fish. Like, you could fly to other islands and harvest them, clear cut them. That's like, I kind of want to focus on my island and do stuff, right? And like in the first game, all the villagers, residents, asked you to do things. This latest game, I don't know, no, it's not really. I don't know. Versus Disney Dreamlight Valley, you got fishing, you got mining, you got planting vegetables, you can cook meals, you can talk to people and have daily discussions and find out what items they want you to collect for bonus points or for to increase the most friendship, and you can hunt down those specific things. There's missions for everyone. And at any time you can press up or down, I forget. And there's 6 missions, which are just like, catch 3 fish, sell 3 fruit, talk to someone, give a gift, cook a 3-star meal. And they're just constantly, as soon as you do one, another one pops up. Missions, and you do these, and you collect this in-game currency, which hasn't paid off in a long time, but that's what you use to expand your area or unlock new worlds to get new characters. So yeah, it's just stuff to do. Plus, they have they haven't since I stopped playing. For Halloween, they had like a seasonal. Do these specific missions, which are bigger, and you can earn seasonal rewards. Seasonal rewards. And towards limited time bonuses, and that seems they're all Halloween themed and such. Okay, so I'm enjoying this. Even though it's on Game Pass, but I feel like it should be free at this point, and maybe it is. But I've seen that people have purchased it on the Switch or something to that effect. I don't know if what they're buying though is more like a higher ranked. You start with more premium currency thing. But yeah, so it's not the game's not done yet, but it's solid experience. I might be done with it by the time the game is done though. Disc Room. One thing that Microsoft Xbox. One thing they do is they keep things interesting, challenging, fresh, encouraging. Is they have weekly Xbox quests, and the purpose for doing them is you get points towards Microsoft rewards. Which I use those reward points to trade in for more time on my Game Pass subscription. And one week that said, why don't you play Disc Room? And usually I only do these quests if I've already played the game, or maybe I intend to start the game. And this one I looked at and it looked like, I'm seeing good reviews. It looks like it doesn't take that long to beat. It doesn't. As long as you can control your rage, it certainly is a frustratingly challenging thing. where essentially a lot of it is you enter a room, clock starts going, and there's all these saw blades, and that's it. You just try to not touch the saw blades as long as you can, and except for some boss levels, where in the boss levels you gotta like touch, you gotta collect drops that they drop, and that if you collect enough of them, it does damage to the boss. For the most part, a lot of these rooms are like survive for 10 seconds. That's your mission. By the end of the game, the ultimate challenge is to survive in every room for like 25 seconds. So you know what? This is like if you're stuck on a room, you can't do it. At least it's like, well, I tried 10 attempts in the last minute, right? Like you're not banging your head against the wall for too long, or you can just try another room, or you can just rage quit for a day. And then you find out there is a hard mode, and then you're grateful that in hard mode they only want you to survive in all the rooms for 10 seconds. And there are certain power ups, like you get these power ups. The one I ended up using the most was the ability, like you press A, you hold A, and it slows down time. But it also, I think it also like pauses the clock, so it is a trade off. But by slowing down time, when you see a bunch of buzz saws moving, I didn't mention these buzz saws are for the most part moving not randomly, but like bouncing off walls and stuff, and then you got two bouncing off walls, and maybe you got seven bouncing off walls, and then it's just like, where you can slow down time. You can be like, okay, this one's maybe this is the safe path, I think. Nope. I felt that was the most effective one. Other players might find that the other five or six abilities are more useful. Or you know what? If you try a room, try, fail, 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 fail. Maybe you come to realize, you know what? I'm just gonna try something completely different. Hey, that was a solution. Yay. But yeah, unfortunately, well, you can look online and find out I'm wrong. But yeah, I think I found that some of them is just like, no, it's not possible. It's not. But it's like a minimum. Maybe there's like less than 8. I think what's it? 50 rooms times 2 for hard mode, and I feel like maybe less than 10, 5 more impossible. Yeah, I'd be happy with more games like that. Oh, yes, I did want to mention, even though, yes, I've played these games before and own them, Fallout 3 as well as Mirror's Edge, they're on Game Pass too. And frankly, you know what? It's just so much more convenient to have them on Game Pass than to find where you put the discs, put them in the system, wait for them. Well, you still need to install them. Or maybe you don't. Some of these could be played on cloud. Yeah, so I did pick up Fallout 3 again. Oh, wait, why did I do that, by the way? Yeah, I think I saw each of the DLC was on sale at some point. I spent $6.69. Because at some point I had them on like a Game of the Year version, but I had to give that disc back to someone. So I never played through 3 of the 5 DLC or 4 of the 5 DLC. Yeah, but now I have. Or no, now one recently I played the Pit. No wait, before I played 2, Operation Anchorage and the Alien one I played before. I played the Pit recently, and now there's still 2 more DLCs to play. Mirror's Edge, one day I was just like, man, yeah, no, I never beat this game, and so yeah, I decided, you know what, frick it, turn it down to easy, try to beat it. I got stuck at some points. I don't know. The game is more frustrating than I remember. Like for a game that half of it, like I haven't gotten to the time trials yet, but you should be able to like speed run and like fluidly jump and climb and jump and climb and not stumble. I don't know. Like, yeah, some of it is a puzzle, but it's just like, where's it going with it? But yeah, so sometimes it's just like, okay, I'm holding a ledge. I look up. There's another ledge. I'm gonna jump. Clearly, I want to grab that ledge. There's nothing else that I would possibly want to do. Okay, let's do it. Jump. Don't grab the ledge. It's just like, I don't know. And it's just like, yes, sometimes it should be, and that's the game, a challenge of, can you pull this trick off? Of, I don't know, running along, vaulting off a thing, running, wall running off a wall, leaping off, grabbing onto a pipe, swinging, grabbing onto a thing. Yes, I get that. But when you're at the slow part where it's just like, I am climbing up a pole. Now I would like to jump onto that pole and grab it. I missed. It's just like, can I skip this, please? So I got frustrated and rage quit. And I unfortunately won't finish that again. There was a sequel, and it is on Game Pass. I don't know. But the maybe in a, although yes, I will say in both these games there is something satisfying about getting an achievement in a game that you otherwise haven't gotten an achievement in that game for 8 or more years. As for Fallout 3, yeah, so the DLC, plus also I was working towards 2 quests I missed. Agatha's Song, where you gotta go into a vault and get a violin. And there's one for turning in so much Nuka-Cola Quantum to someone, who I think I have never met. And then there's achievements for reaching certain levels at neutral reputation and evil. So I got level 14 for both of those. Whereas good, obviously I got good. Way back when. And yeah, I never got around to collecting all the bobbleheads. Plus the DLC. Plus whatever DLC I missed. That's about it, I think. Oh, and I think killing however many super mutants. So yeah, just handy to have those available. That's all my point was. Okay, I'm looking at the list of games I purchased. Okay, so that was until October 22. November 15th, solid game right here. Oh, good, I'm turning red. Vampire Survivors. It's a bullet hell where you're the one producing the bullet hell. Good luck, everyone else. It a juvenile joke I would have made, but hey, someone said it to me. I didn't say it. I said, hey, someone's like, oh, you've been playing Vampire Survivors? Yeah, I have. That's a good game. You can play with one hand. It's true. Don't know why he said it. I don't think he meant to insinuate what he was insinuating, but it's true. It certainly is a roguelike. I invested first in the upgrades where you get more money. Now I have too much money, but I was able to buy all the upgrades. A little bit of a bumpy start. You play a couple runs where, so essentially it's just like you in what I assume is an infinite space, and monsters just keep coming at you slowly at first, and then a minute passes and like you see like a new wave of things attacking you, like a bunch of bats all fly by in a swarm. Dodge them this time. But eventually, once you're super leveled up, super powered, have all the upgrades, maybe you deal with the swarm as they fly by. 5 minutes passes. Suddenly you're surrounded by inescapable obstacle flowers. And there's a boss. So yeah, you kill enemies. Some of them drop experience. You pick it up. You level up. You get more powers. which are random NRG based. Um, if you level up your ability, you can super level it up. It's just a super satisfying experience. And yeah, once you get past the hurdle of like, cool, I can pass the 5 minute mark, I can pass the 10 minute mark. Eventually, you're playing levels and you're just shooting out lasers and axes and holy Bibles and just it sometimes feels like you can't be destroyed. And it feels pretty darn good until it's like, oh shit, there's too many now. Or the level ends at 30 minutes. And you know what? Yeah, I think contender for like, yeah, I didn't look at the Game Awards at all. Maybe I should have, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a Game of the Year contender. It's even though it doesn't seem that much to it, doesn't matter. Still good. It's still good. It's still good. Recently, so I this is a game I download. I'm sure I've downloaded it a couple of times and it just didn't start until there was an achievement challenge last week. So I'm like, or one of the challenges, play a game that has the word like definitive edition in it or remastered. And all the games that I have with those words in them, I've 100% completed already. So I'm like, you know what? Day of the Tentacle. Fine, I'll play it. And it is pretty good. Pretty good, pretty funny. Um, Sometimes point and click adventures are dumb, and I find myself at like, okay, here's my inventory. Something here has to work. I have no gosh darn clue what it is. So I just go item A, clock, no. Clock. Item B, clock, no. Item C, clock. This legitimate, I don't know. Like this, I'm solving things along the way and just finding things and picking them up. And it's neat because sometimes it's like I'll find the problem and already be like, oh, I already solved the thing. That's what this thing already have is for. Yay! I just picked that up for no reason. Um, Pretty funny humor. Yeah, so far there's only been a couple times where I was just like, I don't. And so I looked it up eventually, and I didn't feel ashamed at all for the ones that I couldn't. One involved like pushing a person, and it's just like so far to this point, like you always had the option. Anyone you could just walk up to and select, interact, talk to, look at, give a thing, push, those usually reserved for like items and stuff, right? And I thought if I ever tried to push someone, my character would just be like, don't be rude, don't push people. But the one time I actually need to push someone, it just didn't register as like, oh, that's a thing. Versus one other time where it's just like, oh, all I had to do was talk to someone. They were sitting in the room the entire time. I just never thought, I don't know why. They were reading a newspaper. I don't want to talk about reading a newspaper. But have I said too much? No, because I think the next person would have been like, well, yeah, I talked to that guy. You've talked to everyone else. Um, Pretty good, pretty funny. And yeah, it's got a game in a game too. So that's just it. Maniac Mansion, which I don't know if they renamed it so they could include it in the game. But that's pretty novel that like if well I imagine if you already have access to Maniac Mansion, you're not going to replay it again in Day of the Tentacle. But if you're like me, who hasn't played either, then it's just like, you know what? That is novel to see. They are making references in this game clearly to past events, which had to have happened in other games. Plural? I don't know. But then when you boot up this game in a game, it's just like, oh, look, there's that character who I am. It's like, oh, okay. Neat. All these characters do have history, or I don't know if they all do. Um, but yeah, good stuff. A couple of LOL moments. Um, let's see. Otherwise, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. I needed a game for achievements that had level up, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna start an RPG, or I've beat all the RPGs I have. I've either beaten and stopped playing, and I'm not gonna resume them. And someone recommended play this Wolfenstein game. There's pretty easy ways to unlock achievements for upgrades to health and stuff, and they apparently counted. It turns out I've never played a Wolfenstein game before. And I don't know if I've just mixed them up with Doom and Duke Nukem this whole time, or if they're all in the same. They are actually all in the same family and related. Um, and so yeah, I say that, and yeah, this game has had a few surprises in it. Because yeah, I picture you're talking about these games, and like I'm saying, maybe I'm mixing them up, but like you got that fake 3D tunnels like in the old screensavers, and like bad guys walking up to you, but they're clearly 2D sprites, and you take damage, and your little icon guy at the bottom gets more beat up over time the more health you lose. I was not expecting. You start off Wolfenstein, and you start off and it's a tutorial, and then your guy gets kidnapped and thrown into prison, and you have no weapons. You pick up a pipe like this guy's holding. Um, Jason won't like it because you have to harm animals, but they're German. Nazis, I should say. I don't know why they're Nazi. They're Nazi dogs. What do I have against Germans? What do I have against German dogs? Oh, geez, they're Nazis. That's what I have against them. Not all German dogs, just these particular ones. Still, it's pretty brutal. Oh yeah, but the thing is, you're thrown into a prison, and you're in like this stealth mission. I wasn't expecting stealth mission in this game, and actually, like I was not making any progress. It was so weird. There's guards walking around, which they're in the super heavy armor, so they're walking slowly, and so you gotta like make sure they don't see you, so you can flip a switch, and then they get powered down, and then you can take them down. But I just was not seeing any path where, because it's not when I say flick a switch, the guy has to hold the switch. I'm pulling it down. Do 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 do. Meanwhile, there's guards walking around, and I just didn't figure. Somehow I did it once after turning it down to Baby Lala mode difficulty. Where when you choose it, when you're selecting the difficulties, they show that angry face again, and when the Baby Lala difficulty, you're wearing a baby bonnet and a soother, so it's just like here I am thinking like I should play on normal, but like I was getting so frustrated with this stealth mission, um, and even then it didn't help. Hey, um, yeah, and that is it as far as Game Pass games that I've played and started this year. A big variety of stuff. Not, but yeah, I'm noticing, yeah, a lot of it are shorter titles. Um, Maybe too short. I think 10, 20 hours is a good length for a game if you really enjoy it. Surprisingly, yeah, not a lot of open world stuff. Although I am there's two games I'm gonna be thinking of playing next. Um, One's High on Life that came out yesterday. I'm seeing mixed reviews on it though. I don't know if some people just hate the humor, or maybe they hate the humor for good reason because it's too annoying. maybe it'll be too much. We'll see. I don't know. It's been on my watch list, and this is certainly a value where it's just like, hooray, day one. Um, I want to try it. The other game is an Ubisoft game. Picture not found. Oh, change capture. High on Life. High on Life. High on Life. Another game I want to play is by Ubisoft called Immortal Phoenix Rising, something like that. which seems to be Greek god based mythology. I watched a couple of reviews today. And in the reviews, the narrative seemed to be, "Oh, this looks like a rip-off Breath of the Wild." Which, you know what? Like, that's a good game to rip off. If you can do a mediocre rip off of a game, then hey, aim high. um, that's another game I want to play. Other games. So yes, looking at the list. Let's see. What the heck was that? I don't know. Yeah, so it looks like a lot of I played a bunch of bite-sized games that were calming and soothing, or told a story, or were artsy fartsy. But there's a couple good RPGs and adventures. Looking at Nobody Saves the World, Monster Sanctuary, Middle Earth, Guardians of the Galaxy. Should have played more Tunic. A few roguelites in there too. Different, miscellaneous games like your Disney Dreamlight Valley, frustrating games and bullet hells like Disc Room. Maybe more of the heavier stuff might be in the backwards compatible games or older games that have become reavailable. So yeah, satisfied. Now, getting back to hold on, and this is how you write a good essay: is you make your points, and then you also bring up a point which is contrary to your point, and you discuss, well, here is the answer to that contrary point. But Kerry, you might be asking, I don't know why you're not giving me eye contact, but Kerry, you might be asking, what about when a game is pulled off of the Game Pass service? Isn't that a bummer, Reno? Yes, but let me tell you how often that has happened to me this year. So here is a list of games that I've written that fit into the category of games that left Game Pass that I wasn't done. Because you know what? There could actually, hey, hold on, because I did mark off the games I've listed so far. 29 of them that I've listed so far. Two have been taken off of Game Pass: The Artful Escape and Flynn, Son of Crimson. Cool. That seems wrong or surprising, but no, I scrolled through and clicked on each one. Church even said it's unless they were removed or planned to be removed for next month. No. Well, okay, but those are the games I started this year, so I guess it's not that surprising that I think games maybe are on there for a year or two before they're removed. And so if I started them now, then maybe they were on there for too long. But here are the list of games that left Game Pass, and I was just like, oh darn, I'm not done playing that game yet. Am I on the right capture? Yes. Yakuza 0. So last year, 2021, I think. I'm pretty sure it was 2021. It could have been late 2020. Or at some point. That didn't affect me. Yeah, a bunch of Yakuza games were added to Game Pass. And when I say a bunch, I think maybe like 7. And I've never played any of them. Yes, sorry. I was going to say, not only have I not played them, I think I often mix them up with Shenmue, which is another game I've never played. So I just looked at these and thought, where should I start? And actually, I got multiple answers because I don't think, well, it's called Zero. I don't think they started at 0. I'm sure this is a prequel to something. And yeah, I got multiple answers. Like you could start at 0. You could start at, I think it's called like Yakuza Kiman. And even that has like another game to it. But at some point, I think I read at least one person said 0 is a good game to start at. So I did. And I played, and yeah, hard game. Like I reached, like maybe there was a prologue. Maybe I reached the end of chapter 1, of which there's probably, I think there's at least 15 chapters, maybe more. And I encountered a boss. And this guy was like a general crime lord. So it shouldn't be too surprising he's a threat, but you think, oh, this is chapter 1 though, right? And yeah, no, it was a very tactical, well, it was supposed to be a very tactical, difficult fight encounter. I only got by through some like very cheesy method where it's just like hit, run away, and then they do their attack, and then they kind of tire out, and then I run back up to them, hit, knock you down. Now that you're down, massive damage, run away. Something stupid like that. But up to until I even got to that point, like I tried, failed. The game was even like, bro, how, do you want to? Because I'm probably started at normal difficulty. Do you want to play easy? and I was like, nah. Or you know what? Maybe I felt like maybe I was making no progress whatsoever. I'm like, sure, fine, I'll play. Fine, I'm demoralized. I said yes, I'll play easy. After I chose yes, it said, "Are you sure though?" I mean, like, it was like, you chose normal for a reason, man. This was just a suggestion. Do you? That was. I was just like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just kidding, man. It was just like, are you sure? And then I was like, you know what, game, you're right. You're right. I chose normal. I'm gonna play on normal, but the option is there. Thank you for presenting me the option, but also believing in me. And then that's when I eventually cheesed my way and got through. Then I heard, okay, for some reason they're removing Yakuza 0. Oh no, that's a bummer. I was nowhere near finished. And I was like, okay, you know what? If the choice is, if I'm just never going to play this again, or I can still play it now, sure, turn down the difficulty, turn it easy, power through it, or get as far as I can. The game takes a long time. Like, it's one of those things where, you advance in the story, and then there's a cutscene, and the cutscene you realize is going for a while. So you put the controller, or maybe, I don't know if I put the controller down, but eventually, like, the screen turned gray as if because I hadn't touched my controller for so long. Like, there's that. The cutscenes are super long sometimes, but they're hilarious and compelling. Like, they introduce this guy with the eye patch, magnificent, and like, I don't know if, because like I'm saying, it's the first game I played. I don't know if they did such a great job introducing this guy because they wanted to be. Okay, I think of an example. Like that Han Solo movie, right? It's just like, oh man, everyone wants to know the origin of Han Solo. Let's give him a 90-minute movie. I don't know if they did the same thing with this guy, right? I don't know if it would have been justice if it's just like, so one day this guy with the eye patch, I don't remember his name, showed up, right? They wanted to make a grand entrance where people were like, oh no, there's this guy. Don't worry, he'll take care of everything for us. And then he shows up, and it's this guy they're talking about. Yay! I was wondering when he would show up. He's on the cover art. So wild. So I didn't finish. It was taken off Game Pass, but at least by taking off Game Pass, it gave me the incentive to, you know what? If you want to play through it, Twitch Studio is giving me notifications all of a sudden out of nowhere. Been recording for 2.5 hours. Why now? While I'm talking about Yakuza. Gave me the incentive to turn down the difficulty so I can get through more of the story. So many wacky side quests, man. Wackiest stuff I've ever seen. And then, so the kicker is they took it off of Game Pass, but at some point they put it back on. In July of this year. So I don't know what the deal is there. And at some point where... So much earlier I talked about game momentum. We'll see. We'll see if I ever decide to pick it up again. I suspect I might remember enough of the characters because it was pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, one Yakuza 0. So games that they removed when I've been done. One is Yakuza 0, and then they added it back later, or the next year. Fogs. This is a game I played or started at 1 year at PAX Kerry. There was a friend who stayed late. In the morning, I said, "Here's this game that I've had for a while. You play a two-headed dog, and you can play co-op, so we can each control a head." And we played, and we giggled, and we had fun. We played for a few hours, it seemed. And I assumed we got a third of the way done the game. No. Sorry, I thought we got like a third of the way done the game. And then I just put it down because I thought this game ideally would work co-op. You could just play, two. I think the controls are, for the most part, joystick to move ahead, by which I mean a head. Shoulder button to like elongate your half of the dog. A button for barking, which is cute, and like a button to grab with your mouth. I think that was it. So you could play both heads on one controller, but co-op was more fun and cute. Let's see. So I started in September, then stopped. Then in March they said, "Oh, we're moving this game," and I thought we were third done, but I think maybe we were only like a third, I think you're trying to like be like a third done, maybe the first third of the game. So, but in March I managed to 100% it, so it's fine. Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2. Now, because Yakuza was removed and then brought back, now I have hope and belief that they will add this game back at some point. Because all the other Final Fantasy games, well, no. I think like 7, 8, and 9, which I have purchased, so it doesn't really matter. I think they're still on there. Final Fantasy 13, I don't know how many there are. If there's 2 or 3, I think they have been added and removed. I don't know if they're on or off at this point. But yeah, there's other Square Enix games like Guardians of the Galaxy. Kingdom Hearts 3 may or may not. You know what? I don't know if maybe they made a deal with Square Enix at some point for Final Fantasy, and then it's been deteriorating. Might want to look that up. So maybe it won't come back. But yeah, that's a game I feel I will buy eventually anyways, but it would have been a bonus if it were on Game Pass. But I think the cheapest I've seen it is $30, where maybe for 15 I'll buy it. But it is there are large games. And actually, I'm real surprised that I played Final Fantasy X for, I think, 8 hours. Did I not write this down? Yep. For a week. I started playing in May 2021, played for a week, then it left Game Pass in May of 2022. So I had a year with it, and I just didn't, or a year or more to play, and I just didn't, so that's on me. Dark Alliance, Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance is a game I looked forward to, and it was a day one release. I downloaded it day one, and didn't care for it that much. It was kind of disappointing. One thing that was disturbing so you pick one of 4 characters. There is like a ranged archer. You got Dritz, who is like a roguey. You got Bruno, who is a dwarf with like a shield. So I imagine they're supposed to be the tank. Then you got like a barbarian guy who's less tanky but more melee in your face. And I figured, and then yeah, so I was under the impression, okay, there's gonna be multiplayer, and there's probably not going to be duplicates of characters, so I'm going to pick the character who I assume is going to be the least popular, and I went with the barbarian. So I started playing, it was okay. As you play through the game, it's kind of like you beat a level and then you unlock the next difficulty or the next level. And it seemed like you really had to, I don't know, like, unless I want to stay at the easiest difficulty, I wasn't getting enough experience to play the harder difficulties unless I was really grinding and I just didn't want to. And then it's like, okay, well, let's try multiplayer. Multiplayer might be fun. And you'd be like, cool, join a game. And it just matches you into a game where someone is waiting in the open world or the menu hub, so to speak. The area where you're not playing the game, but there's a shop and a training dummy. You can upgrade your equipment and your skill trees and all that, level up your character. But like, I can't imagine someone's just sitting there being like, "Hooray! People are gonna join me in this game soon! Woo!" But the kicker is like, okay, cool. So you're matched up with someone who is not the only, but it seemed like the only matching thing they did was this person's not the same character you are. They are 30 levels ahead of you though. And it's like, okay, so what level are we gonna play that's satisfying for both of us, right? What difficulty? This didn't make any sense. It looked like that was the focus though, like that was what you should do. I don't know if my problem is like I'm supposed to bring 3 friends with me. But I didn't. So it was released in June of 2021. I got tired of it after 5 days. In June 2022, oh, okay, so looking at these dates, it really does look at when the game was released. Maybe they buy them for a year. Or it could just be a coincidence at this point. And then in June 2022, they pulled the game. And by then I'm like, okay, well, let me just play through all the levels on the easiest difficulty, which allowed me to beat all the enemies, which unlocked a lot of achievements. I got as many achievements as I figured I would. I didn't start any new characters, didn't power level, but I got one for like kill 500 elite enemies, something like that. And I don't think I had any problem with any of the bosses. That was kind of a drag. Carrion is a very spooky game. I played for 30 minutes. It was a Metroidvania. I don't really care for those. It's kind of a gross one too, where you're a monster. Like that's you. And scientists, when they see you, are horrified, and try to defend themselves. I can't blame them. And yeah, there's no you're the villain. So yeah, tried in 2021 for 30 minutes. They said, "Oh, we're pulling it." So in July, I beat it, and it took maybe 8 hours. Curse of the Dead Gods. Yeah, this was a game I started. Oh, actually, this and is it the next one? Yeah, Dandy Ace. So these games I started last year after I beat, and I'm gonna say completed, but like I didn't do all the ascension levels and try the very super hardest difficulty. Like I just got all the achievements. Beat completed Hades. And I'm like, okay, what's gonna be the next game to scratch that itch? Here is a roguelite. A game I can play, do a run, be satisfied with my progress, and either switch to another game or try again one more run the next day. And yeah, I think at the same time I tried Curse of the Dead Gods and Dandy Ace. Curse of the Dead Gods is very difficult. I remember saying so. What the issue is? So not only are you like going through this temple and things are attacking you, there's not a lot of resources for healing. So you got to really focus on like dodging and blocking. But blocking is timed. Was it? Yeah. So you gotta worry, but also, but between dodging and attacking, you only have so much stamina, which only regenerates when you're doing neither. Or I think if you kill an enemy, you regain a point of stamina. So yeah, stamina, health, but also madness you had to worry about. Like you had 100 madness points, and some enemies did damage and applied madness to you if they hit you. Um, and every time you left a room, of which there'd be 30 to a dungeon, you also automatically got 20 madness. So you were inevitably going to go mad. And every time you got 100 mad, you got a curse, a random curse. So yeah, there was just a lot. There was just a lot to unpack there. So yeah, when they said they were going to pull this game, let's see. So yeah, it started in November 2021. They were pulling it in August of 2022. Which, by the way, having said that, yeah, it looks like of this list of games that were removed that I wasn't done yet, there's no month where 2 games that I was playing were removed, which could be happy coincidence. Could be because I don't play everything. Where was I going? So yeah, there was a lot. You had to be until you really figured out what all the enemies do. Defense is a good idea. I think at some point I watched a video though, where it's just like, here's a combination of weapons you want, and when you play a run, go for these weapons, and as soon as you do, just level them up. You should be fine. And what it was like you get as your main weapon a pair of claws, which they attack very fast. You hit and then you get either guns or a shield as your offhand weapon. So, and what they do, like when they hit, it's like a big hit that knocks your opponent back and like stuns them for a second. And hopefully you get also an elemental benefit if you get an elemental gun or shield or elemental claws. Hopefully not the same element, so you can double up on DOT, damage over time. So it'd be like claw, 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 shield, claw, 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 shield, claw, or claw, 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 gun. So yeah, good advice. And yeah, the bosses. So yeah, so when they said, okay, the game's being pulled, I decided, okay, let's try it again. Let's actually look at strategy. What am I doing wrong? What am I supposed to be doing? Got this awesome weapon combination in mind. Eventually got some. When you have a shield, that does improve the block window of opportunity fairly significantly. So that allowed me to learn how to block attacks, how to parry. Which if you have a shield and like a shield, like some shields were like, this is a spike shield. So when you blocked, you could reflect most of the damage. So that became super handy. So yeah, at first, so there's 3 themes of dungeons, red, blue, and green. I'll just say that. And when you start, you get you only have to complete level 1 of each of these 3 dungeons. So at first I was like, I couldn't do that. Then I eventually did, and then it unlocked. Okay, so now the dungeons are 3 levels long. And I eventually did those. And then it's like, cool, you've unlocked final dungeon, which is still 3 levels, but at the end of each level is the level 3 boss of each of the red, blue, and green temples. And then finally, there's the final boss. And I managed to beat that, and I assumed I was done the game. Oh, but no, I wasn't. Actually, before I even reached that point, though, I was like, you know what? Whew. I'm not certain I can beat this game on time, but I am enjoying myself. So it looks like the first time a game was being removed from Game Pass, and you had the option to decide, you know what, I'm going to buy it. And during that window of when it's on Game Pass but being removed, I'm not going to say it's true for all games, though it probably is. They do offer a discount, so we got 20% off. So yeah, Curse of the Dead Gods. I really enjoyed myself. Not necessarily sure I can recommend it for everyone, but it's the possibly the first game I bought when they pulled it off Game Pass, just so I have a little more time, enjoy myself, not rush and be hasty, but remain calm and strategic. But yeah, so I beat that final boss. Then it's like, oh, you know what? There's more dungeons after that, and I was just like, well, I tried, but that's when they switched up the rules a bit, and they're like, okay, well, in these harder dungeons, the enemies, the timing of their attacks is no, the timing of their attacks is faster, but only for like the elite enemies. So it's like, oh, okay, so the regular enemies attack the same speed as always, but some of these elite enemies attack faster. So it's just like, how can I possibly learn I'd have to relearn the timing for only the tough guys. And then, yeah, no. So I got as many achievements as I could, and there's only like 2 left. And it's just like, no. Solid game. Dandy Ace. I remember praising it last year. Because, yeah, right after Hades, like, it's no Hades. But, yeah, everyone was just like, oh, this is like magic-based Hades. But obviously not as good, and it isn't. But one thing I liked about it was with Hades, right? You had your 4 shoulder buttons. Like one was your default attack, one was a ranged attack, one was a different range attack, and one was roll, I think, or like dash. But this, you would pick up cards, pick a card. And when you picked up a card, it'd be like, cool, do you want to assign this to one of your 4 buttons? So that way, A wasn't necessarily melee attack always all the time. It could be like you could put a ranged attack there, or in Y or B or that. And you could also you could also use a card, instead of using it for its power, you could use it for like to upgrade one of your other cards. So at least it gave you a variety. You could be like, oh, this card's awesome, but this time I'm not going to do a melee run. All my cards are going to be ranged. But what I ended up doing was having more cards be dash, because I realized eventually, if you spend all your time killing everyone, clearing all the rooms, you could just accidentally increases your odds of dying possibly. Versus you could just dash through a lot of the rooms until eventually you reach a room where the doors lock and it's like, okay, fine, I'll fight these people. But no, you don't have to fight everyone. And yeah, it was roguelite in the sense that you get these shards. As long as you spend them before you die, you can spend them on upgrades. The weird thing is, and you could buy more cards. The kicker was, though, it turned out that like not all cards are as good as each other. So you could actually shoot yourself in the foot by unlocking them. Whereas if you just, invested in the best cards, there's the only ones that are randomly dropping. And then it turned out that there's artifacts you can buy, and during a run you can only hold 2 or 3. One of the artifacts was like, instead of taking damage, you drop coins. So it took me a while to beat the game on normal. So it's 4 difficulties, like normal, hard, very hard, nightmare. And so it took me a long time to, like, a few runs to finally be able to beat it on normal. And then after I beat it twice on normal consecutively, I'm like, okay, let's try hard. And then I lost. I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I level, like, grind, get all these upgrades, I'll be able to do it. But then actually it turned out with this artifact of, like, instead of you drop coins instead of taking damage, I realized, well, I actually don't spend any coins during the run. So then with this limited amount of time I had with the game, I was able to beat the 3 harder difficulties almost consecutively just by grabbing this artifact and not spending currency and not unlocking cards I didn't need. So once I beat the hardest difficulty, then I got the rest of the achievements for unlocking all the cards that I didn't need. So yeah, novel game, Dandy Ace. Wasn't too upset that it was pulled off. In fact, it was just like, you know what? Give me the incentive to play it again. So see, this is where all the roguelites are. I said they didn't. I didn't play any new ones this year except for Dead Cells, which wasn't new per se. But there's not. But actually, yeah. Hold on. Well, spoilers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 games are what I'm listing for games that were removed, and 4 of them were roguelikes. One Step from Eden is a game I bought on Steam on one of the 5 games I bought last year, I think. And then it was available on Game Pass. And actually, I think I preferred to play it on Xbox just because I want to play it. I don't know. I don't PC game that much. It's just like how I'm sitting right now is not as comfortable as my couch, which is right there. Bigger screen too. So yeah, Rogue. I say I wasn't done playing Eden, One Step from Eden, but I did play enough of it. But I knew I would want to play it again. But honest to goodness, like once they said they were pulling it off the Game Pass, I actually didn't go back and get any more achievements because I thought I got a satisfying amount. And yeah, so seemingly I started playing it in Nov of 2021. They pulled it in Nov of 2022. So there you go. Games last a year. So I think that's a good attitude towards like, okay, well, how often did they pull games? Like they say day one releases, but they're not going to pull them off the next month. And then, haha, you fell for it. Now you have to pay full price. Like they're there for a long enough time. Last game is Neoverse. Card building roguelike. Deck building roguelike. And we have pretty ladies. I realized after I beat them, I'm like, wait a second, my character wasn't blonde. The cover art, they're all blonde. Go figure. So they pulled it off of Game Pass in November, and I looked at it, and I was like, well, I played it in March and July of 2021, got like 25% through the achievements, and yeah, in December, I guess only for like a couple days at the start, or I guess end of November. Yeah. Anywho, they pulled it this month. In fact, I think they're pulling it off the service tomorrow. I managed to get another 36%, so 61 is fine. A lot of them now are just the Ascension achievements, where it's just like, okay, now beat the game on the harder 15 times. Nah, I'm good. It wasn't that great a game, but it did make me feel good playing it. And the challenges there were like play without unlocking skills, play without getting any new cards. Actually, I didn't do that one, but I did play the one or try build a deck with as many cards as you can. Stuff like that. It was satisfying. And unlike Curse of the Dead Gods, is like, nope, that was fine. It's good enough. Don't think it's worth 25, but certainly got that much out of it. So I think that's all I was going to discuss. Certainly a fine, excellent value. Game Pass, I certainly always feel like there is something to play. Looking through, and yeah, most of these I completed. Some of them I just started and they're rather big. Some of them, you might want to go back to them. Or I feel bad and weird that I didn't, like Tunic and like Wreckfist and Young Souls. I can go back. And they're constantly saying like 10 more games are coming soon, or they've already announced this many games are coming in January. And then you get games with gold games, which I guess I didn't list here. They're included. But yeah, they've gotten worse and worse to the point where it's just like that's not even a feature anymore. But like I'm saying, Game Pass currently is free. As long as you do Bing searches and get achievements. 50 points a day if you get an achievement. Which works out to like 1/6 of a day worth of Game Pass. Just for that alone. I think I'll follow up shortly with all the games that I purchased throughout the year, just so you can get an idea of like, okay, hold on, but what was missing? And I realized, yeah, I actually bought, including 2 rogue lights that I did buy. Um, well, that's your teaser. One is so good, I'm gonna say it was so good. Um, Possibly kept me. In conclusion, I'm actually yeah. So good value, variety of games, enough to keep you interested. There's probably tons in here that like you're surprised at, like, oh, what, this was available, man. You didn't play that game? Why not? Halo. um, I felt like I had a good ending to this. Oh yeah. So at this point, so first year I felt like, yes, it satisfied my gaming needs absolutely. Um, and some games that I did buy, whoops, they ended up being on Game Pass anyway. You'll see tomorrow or whenever I release the next video, though, like why did I still feel the need to buy games? What's missing from Game Pass? But yeah, as summarized though, like sure I did buy games, but since Game Pass has games available, there's no need to buy games at full price anymore. Is my point. Like I still bought games, but on average they were Cyberpunk. That was a game I bought and did pay $20 for. But on average, the games I did buy were only $13. So you can imagine there was a lot that were under 10. Because yeah, essentially the only reason now I would play a game or need to play, well, because there are the occasional day one releases um, on Game Pass that are free. I certainly don't come across many examples of games that are like, it's day one, let's pay full price. That's not a thing that I need to do ever again. Well, not about ever again. We'll see. Um, Let me think. Because yeah, I knew Borderlands came out this year, didn't it? Didn't buy it. I'm waiting, man. It's waiting for it to be $20. Factoring in also the season pass and stuff like that. So many buying practices I'm sick of, but not Game Pass. Game Pass is good. So we'll see what happens next year if anything big comes out that is just like, nah, Game Pass has got me covered, or more bite-sized things that keep me entertained. Did I have a point? Did I promise a point? I guess not. Toodaloo!